Greetings, everyone. Welcome to GameFace, episode 382 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, your host for the next couple hours of awesome video game discussion. And as always, alongside me to do that is Matthew Kyle. What's up, Matt?
Hey.
How's the week going for you?
I don't know. It's only Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, it's been a week since I've seen you, I mean.
I suppose.
Yeah. How was your Easter? Did you do anything special?
No, I played a board game and ate Cadbury eggs.
So you had some friends over to play board games? Well, that's something.
I mean, it wasn't for Easter.
I worked all day Easter, so you were definitely one up on me. I had to do dossier all day on Easter Sunday to get it done for yesterday, before the month turned over, obviously. Dossier is our rundown of all the games coming out in a given month. So I was working on that on Easter Sunday. I did get some awesome Easter candy, though, and I'm happy about that. Any cool candy that you got for Easter?
Well, apparently the same as you did.
Yeah. I discovered a new candy that I love.
I mean, I bought a bunch of candy. Nobody gave it to me.
Yeah.
But I always get Cadbury cream eggs, even though several years ago the American ones changed the chocolate formula. It doesn't taste as good anymore.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
That was like 10 years ago. They're also smaller now than they used to be.
That's the shrinkflation.
Although apparently,
not only Gatorade did that.
A couple times I have imported UK ones because the Cadbury chocolate there is still good. Mm-hmm. But then I've been told by some of my UK friends that they changed the chocolate a year or two ago as well, and that chocolate sucks now too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
I am.
They're still good though. I don't dislike them.
We hinted at the candy that I discovered this Easter, and I love Twix. The candy bars. The one thing I hate about them is how they're so narrow in like these skinny little strips. Well, for Easter, they release eggs. Twix shaped like eggs. And so they're like this big around, and they're made like Twix with the cookie and the caramel and the
wider Twix.
They are delicious. Go get them now. They're probably for half price.
And they kind of come apart nicer than the main one, because the main ones kind of, you get that chew and they sort
No, you're right. Yeah.
Pull, like the eggs don't do it. I think they've done the eggs for a few years. I've gotten them before. I usually got to go around here. At least you got to go to Target to find them.
That was the first time I've ever seen them, and now I'm in love. But they'll go away now. Easter's over.
Well, they're usually on display in Target because they also have the peanut butter eggs in the large.
The Reese's.
They're in the flat larger packs.
Yeah.
But the Twix eggs go like that. Like I went looking for more of them last week, and they were all gone.
Yeah.
I get my Easter candy like at the beginning of the month.
That's smart.
Because otherwise they go away and you never see them again.
Well, that's coming from both of us. If you're into chocolate and candy, get the Twix eggs if you can find them. They're going to be gone. If you can find, maybe even be discounted now because Easter's over.
Oh, they'd all be discounted if you can still. I mean, people know that though. So like, I was at the grocery store yesterday, and there was no Easter
ravaged.
candy left. It was all gone. That whole section was already changed over to the summer stuff. It was all just Twizzlers and Mike and Ike's.
Yeah.
Which apparently is summer candy.
Mike and Ike's? People still eat Mike and Ike's?
Some people do. I don't know.
Those are gross. The other gross candy is like the Necco wafers. You ever see those? Those used to come around on Easter. They're these like almost like plastic wafers with like dust on them, and they're in a roll.
Yeah, I know those.
They're disgusting. And then there's peanuts. You ever have those like
Circus
candy
peanuts?
Those things are disgusting too.
Yeah, know some people who the circus peanuts are their favorite candy.
There's always one.
The people love the circus peanuts, and the people love the Swedish fish.
I don't like Swedish fish either.
Gotta be watched. I don't know. I'm not a big candy person. I'm more of a chocolate person.
Yeah.
So like Mike and candy being like the confectioneer stuff.
Yeah.
I'm more of a peanut butter cup, Twix, 100 grand.
100 grands are great.
100 grands are really good if you can find.
They're hard to find.
Every once in a while, I find the snack size bag of them. I get them, put them in the bowl on the counter, and everybody comes over. You have 100 grand.
I haven't seen
Everybody reacts to 100 grand.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
But you don't see them anymore.
No,
They've like
very
disappeared. Anyway, how are you guys doing? I hope you guys had a good Easter holiday. If you celebrate, even if you don't, you can still eat some candy like I did. Let's check in with you guys, actually. Let's bring you guys up and see what you're up to. Matter of fact, I bought a 1 kilogram bag of mini eggs from Costco. It's too much. Yeah, you'll be eating those for a really long time.
But mini eggs don't go bad.
So. That's true. Congrim One says Reese's is my go-to. Most people, I think, the Reese's peanut butter eggs is everyone's favorite Easter candy.
Reese's is the best.
It's my wife's favorite Easter candy as well. I think that's common for a lot of people, honestly. I can't eat them because I'm allergic to nuts. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, I can't try. But I know a lot of people really love them.
Whatchamacallit? That's a good one.
Oh yeah, those were good too. But those had peanut butter in them, I think.
They have everything in
Yeah.
them. I'm sure that I think they have actual peanuts in general.
Those are old school as well,
Yeah.
actually. Andy T. Monahan says inflation means a lot of unsold eggs. Sweet and sour Twizzlers. I've never had that before. But
I don't like Twizzlers or licorice stuff, so I would never try
I'm not a
those.
big licorice person either. The other thing that I got that I really liked are what were they? They're special jelly beans that are sweet tart jelly beans.
Yeah, I can see that.
Those are delicious. Justin Horman says nerd ropes are top tier candy. I've never seen those.
I've seen that. I'm not a ropey candy person. I just did no interest. I also didn't care for bubble tape.
Oh.
It was 6 feet of bubble gum for you, not them.
Do you remember Big League
I was
Chew?
not you. Oh, of course.
They don't make that anymore because it was like fake chewing tobacco for kids. They used to make candy cigarettes. And...
Well, I remember they discontinued the chocolate one, or they made the chocolate flavor specifically at the request of actual MLB athletes because they wanted to look like they were chewing tobacco, but they quit the tobacco.
Interesting.
But the chocolate made it look like it was tobacco.
That's hilarious. Yeah, they don't make that anymore. I remember when I used to play in Little League, there would be a little concession stand there, and between games I'd go there, and all the kids bought the Big League Chew. It even came in a bag that looked like a tobacco bag. You just can't get away with that stuff anymore.
I mean, you can still get Big League Chew.
Can you?
Still around, yeah. I think so.
I haven't seen it forever.
I haven't been to Galco Soda Stop up in Echo Park in a while, but last time I was there a few years ago, they had Big League Chew right next to the candy cigarettes, which is also something that will blow the minds of a few people who aren't old.
They had the ones where if you blew out on them, the smoke would come out. They had like dust inside them, and then
a little powder, which I'm sure was great for your lungs.
Oh yeah, because you were breathing it in before you're breathing it out.
And a little like candy red on the end.
Yeah. It was a trip, man. To grow up in the 70s and 80s, it was a different time for sure.
or just trying to explain to a younger kid like what Lickamaid was.
Right.
It's like, yeah, you got this
the
nondescript stick of sugar, I guess, and you licked it. You like put it all through your mouth. And then you like stuck it in this bag full of
powder,
pixie dust, and pulled it out and sucked it again. And they'll just stare at you like, what the fuck?
It was a piece of hard sugar that you dipped into powdered sugar and then licked the powdered sugar off of the piece of hard sugar. It's just crazy.
Or just pixie sticks in general.
Those are still around, I think.
Still around. I imagine they would be.
Yeah. They were called Dippin' something or other. I can't remember what they were called. Anyway, there's lots of candy that Matt and I used to have that they just don't make anymore for cultural reasons.
I'll tell you the one I miss is, I miss PB Crisp. Nobody remembers.
I don't remember that.
That was it was like a snack. It was a snack like kind of cracker almost, but it was like fake peanut shells filled with peanut butter from Planters.
You can see why I would not be familiar with that one.
But my other go-to, this only existed for about 6 months in 1993, I think, but it was Butterfinger milk.
Milk.
So
that sounds delicious.
Flavored like Butterfinger. And the only place I ever saw that had it was the 7-Eleven next to the comic store arcade porn rental shop that I worked at in high school. And on my breaks, I'd go over and I'd get a carton of Butterfinger milk and just down the whole thing. It's peanut butter, Butterfinger flavor.
Delicious.
It's one of the best things I've ever tasted.
Well, it's like they make Cap'n Crunch milk even, which is also really good.
Unbelievable. And like Butterfinger, there wasn't even a picture of it on the internet until a few years ago when someone found an old unopened one and took a picture next to a Bart Simpson figure. And then I assume threw it out because that's got to be a time bomb. If you open that, I don't even want to know.
Botulism.
So they discontinued after 6 months, presumably because I was the only person in the world who liked it. And I went over to get my Butterfinger milk, and it was gone. And there was no more Butterfinger milk. And so I got a chocolate one, and I went up to the owner, who was this older Indian guy who'd owned the store forever and knew me, of course, because I was there almost every day. And I went up and I'm just like, when are you getting more Butterfinger? He's like, oh, never. That they discontinued it. And he's like,
one run, and that was it.
What? And he's like, you know what? You're next. The rest of the week, your chocolate milk's free because if it wasn't for you, I'd be stuck with that Butterfinger shit on the shelf for months.
That's great.
And he's like, you saved me some work.
That's awesome.
He's like, you saved me some work, and I can see you're disappointed, so you can have some free milk for a while.
That's great.
So
let's get back to you guys and see what's up. ETH Demon Dragon's Dogma 2 sold 2.5 million copies. Yep, that's up on Sifted right now. Yeah. Maybe you were there earlier and you saw it.
For that kind of game, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's already sold double what the first game did in 2 weeks.
And the first one's sales were mostly back end super discount.
Word of mouth stuff, yeah. ML Clip 20, thank you for subscribing at Tier 1. Yag X Iliagix? How do you think you say that one?
Ilya GX.
Ilya GX. Thank you for Twitch Prime, however we say your name. Maybe you can phonetically spell it for us in the chat. What else we got here? Link So Good, thank you for Twitch Prime. Shora F, thank you for Twitch Prime. I think that's it so far. A ton of you guys hit us up with Twitch Prime in last week's episode, so I'm not surprised that there are less today. Whatchamacallit, Charleston Chew. I forgot about that one as well. That's from Contano. What else we got? Rock and Roll 458, thank you for Twitch Prime. Let's see if we've got any more here. Yep, I love Big League Chew. I mean, it was really just bubble gum that was shredded.
We still have Big League Chew here in Alabama. You can get it places.
Wow, that's crazy. Fun Dip, that's what it was. Pharaoh Doll reminds us that's what it was. Fun Dip. Dippin' Dots are the ice cream that you can get at McDonald's.
Yeah, but then there's
Dip and Lick. Yeah.
But there was also the Candy Dots thing where like they just came on a like a piece of paper.
Nerds were kind of like that too, actually. No, I remember that.
Well,
yeah, they looked like pills on a piece of paper.
Yeah, like a punch them out or peel them off or something. Like I
can't even remember that. That's crazy. Vortex says, "Don't throw it out. Preserve history." Well, until it explodes, it sprays botulism all over.
30-year-old milk is probably not something you need in your house.
Nope. Stolty69, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. And I think that's it. I love the cream eggs. Hope you're both well. You too, Luke. Hope you're doing good, man.
I was right. It's Ilya GX.
Is that how you say it?
That's what they said.
Matt got my name right. Okay, great. We'll try to remember it next time, but I can't promise anything. It's hard to remember everybody's username here on our chat. But yeah, otherwise, it's been actually surprisingly gameplay heavy week for me. Like last week I looked ahead and I was like, I don't know how we're going to do a show next. It's just funny how things just always fall into place. There's always a demo, there's always early access of something. There's just somehow, some way, we always get a good episode of GameFace together.
We also forgot Eiyuden Chronicle. So.
Yeah, well, it was supposed to be in last week's episode. We went way over last week. We were like 3 hours and 20 minutes last week. We're going to try to avoid that this week, but we do have another big show, so maybe we shouldn't spend too much time screwing around. Maybe we should get to housekeeping right away. That probably is actually the best idea. Let's get straight to it. So Easter was this past week. Obviously, we just talked about all the awesome candy that some of you guys maybe got. But another thing that just happened over the last week was April Fool's Day. And we talk about April Fool's Day every year here on GameFace because for whatever weird reason, even my wife at this point knows this. The gaming industry does crazy April Fool's stuff. I don't know why. It's been this way since my first day in the industry. The games industry has always just done tons of April Fool's jokes.
Before that.
Yeah.
Like
why has this happened, do you think?
I don't know. It's just, some of it's because like gaming has always been so like kind of word of mouth and rumor fueled that it's easy to like make something up. There's also like people always want something different or something more. And back in the day, like, you know, you could make up anything you wanted. I mean, the old days. I mean, I think the video gaming April Fool is EGM's Shenlong joke.
Yeah.
Which involves...
That's what kind of started the whole...
Screenshot editing and bunch of stuff. But, I mean, that comes from the fact that in the old arcade scene, people would make up bullshit about things they saw in the game at some other arcade you'd never heard of. Chun-Li throwing her bracelets, or, like, you can throw red fireballs, which was actually true, but it didn't matter because it was just a graphical glitch that happened like 1 out of every 100 fireballs or something. Guile's handcuffs, which were real, a glitch you could pull off in certain things. Chun-Li never threw. That's why Chun-Li has a fireball now, because of the bracelet rumor that flew around for years beforehand. Like, that always happened. Or how the different codes you could put into play as the bosses before Champion Edition came out. But like,
codes were the lowest hanging fruit. April Fool's joke.
My cousin did it at this arcade out in like Modesto. You wouldn't know them.
Like a 40 input chain that you're like, they never get busted because you never knew if you put it in right.
Well, that was the genius of the EGM Shenlong thing. Was they had screenshots. It looked low red, but it looked convincing enough if you were
good enough.
And like, I think it was to unlock him. Basically, you had to perfect every single round of the game, and then when you got to M. Bison, you had to tie 2 rounds. You had to tie 2 rounds to go to the draw, and you couldn't get hit. Yeah. No, it wasn't draw. You had to not get hit and let the time run out on M. Bison. Like, no getting hit, no hitting him, so the time ran out to tie 2 rounds in a row, which is impossible.
Right.
Like, you can't actually, that's not, no. Like, you can't get through an M. Bison Street Fighter 2 fight without blocking.
No, it's
something.
impossible.
It's not going to happen. And then if you do that, then you get the sudden death match, and before he can fight you, Shenlong comes out and grabs him and throws him off the screen, and then you have to fight Shenlong.
Right, yeah.
Now, people who have played Street Fighter later on will realize that this is exactly how Akuma comes on the screen in his original appearance in Street Fighter Turbo, and that's because of this joke.
Yeah.
Like, he
It
literally...
became real.
Akuma
Manifest
exists
destiny.
because the EGM joke was so prevalent. And I remember when that came out, like, for the next week, you had to deal with people who didn't want you to play them in Street Fighter because they were trying to get Shenlong to unlock. And it's just like...
that started it, yeah.
And so, like, ever since then, and some of this stuff, so, I mean, Sega tends to make a free game for April Fools every once in a while.
It's done it a bunch of times, yeah. Yeah, one of the questions I got for this last episode of Ash Ain't Anything was, why do gamers, fall so easily for rumors?
Because a lot of people who play video games are dumb.
Well, my answer was, it's not just gamers, it's everybody. Like, look at like all the crazy conspiracy theories that people fall for now. Like, it's not just gamers. I think the internet is responsible for a lot of this, honestly.
Well, I mean, the internet definitely propagates it easier, and people forget what day it is, and then, like, you have the dateline issue, so, like, people in the UK and Europe start, like, you know, putting up their April Fool's stuff when it's like afternoon on the 31st here, and so people are like, and then people in California are putting them up like after the April Fool's has ended on the other side of the planet. So like there's a whole disconnect there. Yeah. I woke up yesterday to a bunch of unsent messages from my friends who all realized that they sent me some bullshit. Apparently, I'm not sure what they were, but you let people get away with that. When that it's like, okay, we're not gonna push you on that. You got fooled and you realized it. Well, it's become the only day of the year anyone actually fact checks anything they read on the internet.
You're right. Yeah. Well, this year, for whatever reason, the gaming April Fool's stuff was bigger than ever by like several magnitudes. So we were very picky. I mean, that's what we do on Sit, that we curate. So I
didn't see many.
Well, we picked the good stuff, and that's what we do in general. But we also did that with the April Fool's stuff. And so there's like 5 or 6 pretty good ones, and then just I'm not exaggerating, Matt, dozens of others for these like. It's like if you have a small indie game that no one's ever heard of, your April Fool's joke is not going to work. Like, nobody cares. Like, there were just dozens of these April Fool's jokes that no one cared. Where they created, like, trailers, like, fake trailers and all this elaborate stuff, and, like, no one cares. So, our job at Sifted is to find the good stuff and then give it to you guys. And so that's what we did, and that's what we're going to do right now here on GameFace. I collected basically the best April Fool's jokes. And one thing I'll say, Matt, is that, like, a lot of publishers and outlets have just given up as far as like trying to fool people. That used to be the trick, was like, I'll make a story that's crazy, but just plausible enough that maybe I can get a couple of the editors to run the story or whatever. That used to be the goal. Now I think people have figured it out. And so instead of like trying...
there's no outlets left.
That's one part of it. That's a good point, actually. But even those outlets that are left now, they just tend to try to do something cool instead of something that's going to fool people. And that's what some of these were. However, there was one that was both cool and was so cool that was almost plausible. And the coolest thing that I saw of all the April Fool's jokes yesterday was the Pokemon Sleep World Championship. Did you see this, Matt?
No.
So, do you know what Pokemon Sleep is?
No.
So it's a sleeping app, literally, that you start up when you go to sleep, and it measures like how long you're in REM sleep, how long you're you're moving around. It basically is like trying to encourage you to do the right thing so that you get good sleep. It's this app that came and went like 2 months ago. Nobody cared because it's not really a game. It's literally just an app that has like Snorlax like fronting it or whatever. Well, Nintendo and Pokemon Company were very clever, and look at what they did. They created this fake event where people compete at sleeping. It's brilliant the way that they've done it. I've chopped this down a good bit because it's really long, and obviously I didn't want to show the whole stinking thing here on GameFace. But the way that they've cut it together, the presentation values, the production values of this, just incredible. The way the announcers like narrate it and like get you hyped up, like once it starts and they're doing like the play-by-play of them sleeping, it's just freaking brilliant. And again, it's like you think about. What's the payoff for this? Are more people going to download Pokemon Sleep? Maybe.
I never heard of it before.
Now you know about it, right? So it did raise awareness, but I think really it was just them trying to just have fun. Like, look at the money that they've spent on this. It's insane. Like, I really thought it was brilliant. Just the way that they did it, the way they presented it, the concept, the idea, and the fact that it wasn't just a blatant cash-in trying to get people to go buy something, because this is also free, by the way. Like, you don't have to pay for it. So I thought this was... Oh, Faradol saying it doesn't work on all phones. What, Pokemon Sleep? I didn't know that, actually.
No.
But anyway, I thought this was the most clever April Fool's joke for 2024, and also the one where they went the furthest, other than my runner-up, which is IGN this year. Did you see IGN's? So IGN...
The only ones I saw were Minecraft, and somebody posted a micro Dreamcast that wasn't real, which was
I missed that, actually.
Irritating to me.
I didn't see that one. Well,
it wasn't a video, it was just a picture, and like another picture of like the games that were on it. I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. I'd totally buy that. But it's fake, so...
Well, IGN did a Virtual Boy Pro as its April Fool's joke. Now, again, IGN doesn't think this is going to fool anybody. You know, they know at this point that everybody knows it's April Fool's Day. No one's going to believe it or whatever. But I thought that they did a pretty good job with this because it also kind of is riding the tailwinds of Apple Vision Pro. Everyone's kind of talking about that right now. It just went on sale not long ago. It's very similar in concept. So I thought IGN did a good job. And let's be honest, IGN, I feel like, does a pretty good job with these every year. They always create some fake product, basically, and then do a cool trailer for them. So I thought IGN's was pretty good this year. Again, the Virtual Boy Pro. Then we can start getting to some of the smaller guys. Razer also always does an April Fool's joke. Its joke this year, and maybe I should just wait here so the punchline can be delivered by the trailer itself, is a new gaming chair. Obviously, it's Razer. They make gaming peripherals, and this is called the Razer Cthulhu. And Razer Cthulhu is like a Doc Ock gaming chair, basically, that feeds you, combs your hair, brushes your teeth while you're playing video games. I thought this was pretty clever, too. Also, some significant investment went into this to actually build it, or most of this is probably fake, but... I thought Razer did a pretty good job. And again, Razer does this every year. It has...
I mean, they're clearly using puppetry for some of this.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
Yeah, I thought they did a great...
That's CG, but like the stuff where he's being...
That stuff.
Like, that's puppets.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought Razer did a pretty good job. And again, they do something every year. And then another cool one that the outlets did is from YouTube channel Game Explain. It did and we curate a lot of stuff from Game Explain. They generally cover mostly Nintendo stuff, but they do a really good job with it. But they did a fake trailer for Metroid Prime 4. Yeah. Obviously, with its audience at Game Explain, this hits right to the heart of the people who are actually watching their content. However, in Game Explain's world, Metroid Prime 4 has taken a twist, and it is now called Metroid Prime 4 because they have turned it into a golfing game, and then had somebody create the gameplay for this. There's like a good 30 seconds of gameplay from this in this little fake trailer that Game Explain made. Pretty impressive stuff, man. And again, this is an outlet realizing, look, we're not going to fool anybody with this stuff, so let's just have some fun with it and do some cool stuff.
That said, if this popped up as a minigame in something, that would not surprise me one bit.
Well, there was already Metroid Prime Pinball, remember?
Yeah.
Was that GBA? I can't remember.
I want to say that was DS.
But didn't it have like a rumble cart, if I remember correctly? There was force feedback?
Pokemon Pinball.
Okay. I knew it was one of them.
No, it did. You're right. It was a DS game, and the DS thing, and there was a rumble cartridge, like the Game Boy Advance cartridge size that went in the Game Boy Advance slot.
Yeah. I knew it. I thought there was something special about it. So look, we're already open to doing crazy stuff with Metroid, so this Game Explain thing is...
It's got to be better than Federation Force.
That's probably a good point. So anyway, props to Game Explain. They went the extra mile. They had one of their friends, or maybe they did the CG for the actual gameplay. I thought they did a good job with it. And then a couple of the smaller ones, Arma Reforger did an Army Men thing. Matt, do you remember when Army Men used to be gigantic in the gaming industry?
Well, yeah, because I worked in retail stores at the time and couldn't fucking keep track of them all.
Dude, the N64 games sold in the millions. Yeah. And they were not good games.
People used to come and ask for the Army Men on the Army Men...
Sarge's Heroes or whatever.
Sarge's Heroes on PS1. We couldn't keep it in stock.
Yeah, it's insane. And so Arma, I think, is trying to latch on to some of that nostalgia from that era of video games. And this is actually real, by the way. This is actually a little event that you can play through. And that was a challenge throughout the last day or so, trying to figure out whether this stuff is real or if it's just a trailer that they made. A lot of times, like, they don't explain it in, like, the clip description, like, whether it's real or fake or not. So it was hard to tell with some of these whether they were real. This one, in fact, is real.
Yeah, the Minecraft one was real.
Yeah.
Which, it was interesting because, like, it actually caused some, like, backlash. Because the Minecraft one was like this, I can't remember exactly what it was, but basically like it was like a separate world you could see, and it had like a Spider-Man swinging thing. You threw a vine up and you could swing on anything in the ceiling or whatever. And there were a bunch of Minecraft players that are upset because like apparently the April Fool's joke is more impressive than the last few updates to the actual game. And they're like, why don't you do cool shit like that in the actual game instead of it?
Well, do you think the Army Men franchise will ever come back? Do you think people would care now? That's one of those franchises we talked about when I was talking last week about like volleyball games going away and like
I mean, I would think not,
that's kind of
like,
one of them.
But also like the people that were like 8 when these were hot are like 35 now. So the nostalgia thing is kind of in play at this point.
I do wonder if you made a new Army Men game, and who even owns that IP now? Like Embracer probably. Because did THQ own it back in the day? Who published those games? I can't remember.
It does. I think it was THQ.
I can't remember 100%.
I mean, also, like, I'm sure Disney probably has some kind of, in the interim, stranglehold on that, because the popularity of Army Men comes from Toy Story.
Yeah. It revived it, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Yep. So anyway, that's Arma Reforger, the Army Men event. And then the last one I'm going to point out is something for Street Fighter 6. They are bringing Monster Hunter costumes into Street Fighter 6. This one is real. There are really going to be Monster Hunter costumes, which...
Well, there are Monster Hunter costumes at 5.
Yeah.
So.
Which honestly doesn't surprise me at all. Because Capcom will do crossovers with anything. Yeah. It will literally cross over its IP with any other IP that it has.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the guy from the cover version of Mega Man 1 was in Tekken X Street.
I forgot about that goofy drawing.
They've had Monster Hunter outfits. They've had Resident Evil outfits. They've had everything.
Yeah. And so, yeah, this is real. Like, you can actually get these costumes in Street Fighter 6 and use them if you want to.
Ken had that armor, like a version of that armor. The Rathalos armor.
Yeah.
There are a few of them.
Yep. So there you go. Those are the 6 that really caught my eye. I'm sure maybe you guys found a couple that were impressed you or you thought were really cool or really different or original. But these were the ones that really caught my eye, spending a ton of time yesterday sorting through all of these. And actually, if you want to see the full list of all, like, dozens and dozens of April Fool's jokes for the gaming industry, we have a story curated from Gamatsu right now at Sifted that has them all. And literally, it's like an endless scroll of April Fool's jokes. It's really crazy how big it has become in the games industry. But overall this year, nothing too great. Again, the Pokemon Sleep to me was my favorite one as far as clever and the investment that they put into it. IGN I thought did a good job too with its Virtual Boy Pro. But overall, I feel like this is like the 3rd or 4th year in a row where there hasn't been like that killer one where everybody just laughed their ass off at it. So this is one of those things that's not going to go away. Mm-hmm. It feels like it's just, there's Luna. Now that the dogs are gone, Luna comes back. I feel like this is one of those things that's just going to die a slow, painful death. It's just like never going to go away. It's going to get painfully worse like year after year. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's kind of where we're at with the April Fool's jokes. But a lot of the things that we do at Sifted are doing the work for you guys, finding the cool stuff and putting it in front of you so you don't have to do it yourself. And that's what we did with the April Fool's jokes for 2024. Next up, Marvel Rivals, Matt, the biggest debut easily of the week. It is basically Overwatch with Marvel characters. I am
a little too late.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. The response to this on Sifted has been abysmal.
Been that way across the board.
Has it? Yeah. Why is that? Is it just too little too late?
No one cares about character shooters anymore.
Yeah.
No one wants to play a character shooter with Marvel characters.
Why?
Because people want like story-driven stuff, character-driven stuff, and single-player games from Marvel. Mm-hmm. That's it. I mean, that's what people want from superheroes. They don't want co-op shit. They don't want competitive online shit. They don't want to be sold microtransactions and skins and everything, which is obviously what this is. They want to play stuff that captures the characters properly, and that is not this.
I think it's pretty cool. Like, look, I don't play a ton of Overwatch, but like, in the future, once this is out, and I have a choice between playing this and Overwatch, I'll play this, provided it's not terrible.
Yeah,
I care more about these characters.
I mean, I'm just not going to play either one,
right?
So
yeah.
it doesn't. It's not. They're not going to get the audience that wants to play these characters with this kind of game. It's just not going to happen.
I mean, what if they're just looking for the hero shooter crowd that thought Overwatch's characters were good enough, and now they have Marvel characters to use and play with?
I mean, I think it's easier to make original characters that click rather than try to capture some version of a 60-year-old character,
shoehorning it into
to please everyone. Because that's kind of the problem. Is like, okay, which version are all the and you have people that don't know the content enough to like understand that there are different versions of things or even who that is.
Right, yeah.
That is not a gender-swapped Galactus. That is Galacta, Galactus's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of whining about that online where it's like, oh, they made Galactus a girl, it's woke.
Oh, geez.
And it's like, no, that's Galacta. That's his daughter. I don't know what she's doing in this, but like, yeah, that's an established character.
How exhausting must it be to go through life just trying to look for stuff like that?
Well,
what a miserable existence that is.
If it's your entire personality, there's nothing else to do, so you don't know any different. I think it's probably easier that way.
Wow. Get a life, man. That's all I gotta say. Get
if they had a life, they
life.
wouldn't be upset about people that don't look like them appearing in media.
You're probably right. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a.
I'm kind of excited for this, and I realize I'm like the only one.
Yeah, this is a complete dud.
I mean, it's also coming from NetEase, which doesn't give me a lot of confidence in it either. Typically a mobile developer, and so I'm not a big fan of NetEase or mobile games in general. The fact that this is coming from one of the biggest mobile developers gives me a little bit of pause for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's, I don't know, like what a waste of time, money, and effort this is going to be. Like, you'd think they'd have learned something from Avengers, and they didn't. Like, this isn't, like, people do not want online microtransaction laden Marvel games. That is not.
Is this actually? I don't know. Is this going to be free to play?
I don't know.
I would assume.
not. I would assume you're
Oh, really?
I assume you're going to pay $70 for this. And then
really?
have to pay for skins and all the other cosmetic stuff on top.
That
of
would be a big mistake.
100%. Like, the Marvel license ain't free.
Yeah.
I have no doubt that is going to be what's happening here.
You're right, because of the license. I think Pactor said that like Marvel takes like 30% cut or something.
It's a big cut.
Yeah.
The only online kind of like transaction driven game you could get away with is if you resurrected Marvel Heroes.
Yeah.
The Diablo style.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to like that.
Yeah, Disney killed that in its cradle, or kind of too early, partly because Marvel Entertainment, run by Ike Perlmutter, the enemy of all people who love Marvel, who also is involved in the current today the voting to see if Peltz and Ike and all those worthless pieces of shit get to take over Disney's board.
I saw that.
Which would be catastrophic.
It really would be
to all culture.
Right.
All pop culture would suffer from that. Luckily, last I checked, the board Iger and then the normal people are winning the vote.
I think that's good at least.
Peltz, by the way, his only contribution to film or television has been to force M. Night Shyamalan to cast his daughter as Katara in the Last Airbender
That's
movie.
very specific.
So if you want that guy running Disney, like, I don't know what to tell you, but you're definitely not going to be allowed in my house. It's ridiculous. But like Marvel Heroes was largely killed. No one really knows why, but the speculation is that because they had a license for Marvel stuff that predated the separation of all the licenses. After the MCU got big and Marvel started being bitter about the fact that they didn't have the other licenses for Spider-Man and Fantastic Four and X-Men, but Gazillion was the one who did that. Was that right?
I think so.
They had their license covered everything because that schism didn't really exist yet when they signed the deal.
Yep.
So they could use Fantastic Four and X-Men stuff as much as they wanted, and apparently every time they did that, especially Fantastic Four, Marvel got real mad. But they couldn't do anything about it. So when the time to renew
that'll
or not
affect your relationship. Yeah.
When the time to renew or not renew the license came up, they just killed it, even though it was doing well, and it just launched on PlayStation.
That sucks.
And I haven't played a lot of online games in my time, but I missed that game to this day.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun by the Diablo 2 guy. A lot of Diablo 2 veterans made that, and it was great.
Well, Marvel
this
Rivals
is not
right now,
going to hit at all.
I think it's only announced for PC right now.
That doesn't surprise me. I'm sure it'll be on the consoles.
Eventually it'll be.
There's no way. Marvel would never sign on if it wasn't also going to be on consoles. Like, they know where their audience is, but their audience is not going to care about this. They want stuff more like the Captain America Black Panther game.
Yeah.
And
Spider-Man 2.
Except set in the modern day with more characters that they
resonate with.
I think people would rather play T'Challa than his grandfather for the most part.
Yeah.
Or just in general the characters that they know. In an action-based setting that isn't like an arbitrary contest between... I mean, I know Marvel characters fight each other all the time, but it's like... The reason Marvel is successful is the stories, is the characters and the stories and their interactions with each other, and that's not going to be portrayed... because we know that because the only character you got out of Overwatch was when they did the CG movies.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, was the best thing about Overwatch for the in the end.
Now they're saying they're not going to do the single-player story-driven stuff, which was
killing
the
that
whole reason
too.
Overwatch 2 launched.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
There's going to be
a reckoning.
I look forward to the Dwyer documentary about the mishandling and failure of Overwatch. I don't know if there's a more fumbled bag in the history of video games.
Yeah, it seemed like it was set on a path to eternal success.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
like. From the point of like that, 2018, you couldn't look on gaming internet anywhere and not see Overwatch shit or Overwatch.
Yeah.
It was just everywhere. It was the one.
And now it's
and now like people don't even know it still exists.
I know. Yeah. Let's see what you guys are saying about this new Marvel game, or just Marvel in general. Fire Native said, Matt, what's so sad, I think, is there is infinite lore from comics in the MCU to make a single-player story game, and they don't. Yeah, I think a lot of it is just, it's a lot of work. Like, those games take, 3 or 4 years. They cost $200 million.
So do these, though. And
I mean, with the license, maybe.
And at least when you're done making the single-player game, you get your sales, and you don't have to worry about it again. As opposed to supporting these live service games until the end of the fucking world. Like... It's so weird, and people, and the other problem is like people have like kind of gotten into that mentality with everything now. Like everyone's going around reporting that the PAL World's player base has dropped 97% since launch. Yeah, it's a single player game.
Yeah,
like
it should.
Of course,
like, that's how it works. Yeah, like, they sold
that
like
has
30
nothing
million.
to do with the health of the game. They've got their money. Like
it's just different now. The expectations are so different for what makes a game successful. That's also a recent factor question. Like, what makes a game successful now? Mm-hmm. Like, it's different than it used to be. Yeah. So we're all calibrating.
And then meanwhile, the big Joker reveal, which is one of the worst things I've ever seen. Like someone on Twitter...
For Suicide Squad?
Suicide Squad. Someone on Twitter said that the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League Joker is like, you finally let one of those theater kids who always claimed they could play the Joker better than Heath Ledger try it.
Oh,
and that's what you ended up with.
The voice alone sounds awful. It sounds nothing like the Joker.
It's bizarre.
It's really weird. After you fumble... Talk about fumbling a bag, by the way.
I don't mind the visual design of him.
Yeah. He looks fine.
But the performance is awful.
It's terrible.
And that peaked, I think, at 3,000 concurrent players on Steam. They brought it back to 3,000, and it dropped back to 1,000 2 days later.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Helldivers 2 is still hovering around 200,000.
Yeah.
So... And then they announced that there's going to be a Arkham Origins remaster later this year. I was like, oh, so we're already trying to erase. Hey, remember when you liked these? Check it out. Look.
Well, we like to focus on
Batman.
Anytime somebody chats for the first time on our stream, we like to point them out. And here we go. Here's Moncasa with their first ever chat on GameFace, and they say, "I like turtles."
Yeah.
Okay, I like turtles too, actually. Or they're talking about the Ninja Turtles there.
Ninja Turtles got a Transformers crossover this week. They're making a turtle van that turns into a giant robot.
Yeah.
That's good.
X-Men.
X-Men 97.
Joe, thank you for Twitch Prime.
X-Men 97 is a great example of taking source material from the comics. And in fact, the source material that they're adapting for X-Men 97's new season is from 1980. Like if they're doing X-Men 200. X-Men is currently on like issue 500. They're doing X-Men. They're doing the Inferno storyline stuff and the Trial of Magneto. That's like when I started reading. Mm-hmm. They're doing Life Death, which is the first X-Men comic I ever read. Was Life Death Part 1 and 2, which is hilarious because I was like 8, and that's a dialogue-driven romance story between Storm and Forge. And for some reason, I thought it was fucking captivating. I don't know, and I wanted more of the X-Men stuff. They're doing Cyclops right for the first time ever in non-comic media. Like they remember that his beams are actually concussive blasts, so he's using them.
And not lasers.
Yeah, and he's using them like he hits somebody and uses it to push himself backwards to dodge something that's incoming.
Right,
and so
right.
It's great.
Yeah.
And that show is like that, and it's I think the biggest streaming premiere of the year across all streaming services this year so far. So like. If you make it good, people will watch it.
Yeah.
Even if there's a bunch of dipshits online complaining that the X-Men are woke, because guess what? they've always been that. Like, that's the whole point.
That's what it is. That's what they are, yeah.
If you're whining about that, congratulations. You've become the bad guys in the X-Men.
Great job. Also, thank you to Henry Pumpkins for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. The Legacy says Moncasa is referencing a viral news report video. Okay. I don't know what that means. Viral news report. What?
Well,
Okay.
a news report video that went viral. Apparently someone said they like turtles.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
I haven't seen that one.
Yep. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
Next, we're going
And
to
yes,
talk.
Gambit does wear a halter top. It's almost like, what? People are very angry that Gambit wore a halter top in the new season. It's like a cut off pink shirt, and it's like, yeah, it takes place in 1997. Have you ever seen movie? Bill S. Preston Esquire wore a shirt like that. Everybody wore that shirt. If you had any kind of abs and you were a dude, you wore the cutoff shirt. Like everyone I knew named Travis wore that shirt in the fucking 80s and 90s. I don't know where people get this weird idea. And they're all kids.
Because they weren't there.
They're all people. They weren't there. Yeah, they're all people that are too young to remember it. It's like the kids that are like saying that like, well, no one hated the Star Wars prequels back in the day, and everyone hates the sequels. And I'm like,
what?
Were you like 5? Is that the only explanation I have for that? Is that you were too young to use the internet when that there are literal movies made about how George Lucas ruined everyone's childhood, which was ridiculous then and it's ridiculous now. And in 15 years, when everyone it's just conventional wisdom, The Last Jedi is the best Star Wars movie, I look forward to all these guys in the nursing homes losing their minds over and over and over about it.
Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk next about a game that I've been tracking real close. In fact, I think it was like 7th in our video game power rankings for last month, and that is a game called Judas. Judas is basically the spiritual successor to BioShock.
Solid Easter game.
Yeah.
Deal.
Ken Levine has been working on this game for almost a decade now, and he tries to push back on the BioShock in space tagline that this game has kind of been stuck with, but now we got previews of this game this week.
You're probably just going to have to live with that one, Ken.
And in fact, it is BioShock set in space. That's exactly what the game is.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. And here's the thing. It is not technically connected to BioShock in any way, shape, or form. Matt, the weirdest thing about this round of previews that came out this week, everything else was great. Like, we're going to get to the details on the game, and it sounds awesome. But, like, Jeff Keighley was there. So IGN goes to interview Ken Levine, and they're sitting at a table with Ken, and at the table with them is Jeff Keighley. Dude, what the fuck?
As part of their team?
Like,
or
he's
just sort of there?
Ken Levine's PR person or something? I have no idea. And, like, IGN is forced to acknowledge that he's sitting there, so they're like, oh, here's Jeff. And the only reason they say that he's there is because they debuted Judas on the Game Awards.
What the hell?
Matt, I don't know what's going on there, man. It was some weird stuff. Watching, like, Ryan McCaffrey, is that his last name?
I think so.
From IGN? Sit there and be like, what the hell? Why are you here?
Yeah, especially because, like, we all know each other. And it's like, Jeff, what do you do?
Why are you in our interview? Yeah. It's so weird. So anyway, once you get past the awkwardness of Keighley being there for no frickin' reason, again, I don't know why, you start learning about the game, and the game sounds frickin' awesome. So it starts with you being reprinted. You've been dead for a while now, and you've just been revived. And as it turns out, you are on a ship called... you are on a ship from Earth going to a planet called Proxima Centauri because Earth has been ravaged by a plague. And your ship, appropriately, is called the Mayflower, although some would say not appropriately after what we found out ultimately about the Mayflower. And basically...
I don't know. What I'm watching here seems pretty appropriate.
Yeah. And basically, your objective is to make it to that planet and save the human race. But... the vast majority of the game takes place on the ship. And the problem is that most of the people on the ship are not humans. They are robots, but they do not know that they are robots. You're the jerk that tells them that they're robots. And so they're like, F you, and they turn on you. And that's the setup for the game. You're basically on this ship trying to get to this planet to save planet Earth, but on the ship you have a bunch of insane robots that are trying to kill you. And that's pretty much the plot. Now, they've talked about the narrative Legos thing narrative Lego. I guess the plural of Legos is actually Lego.
Yeah.
And
They are Lego bricks, not Legos.
Right. So anyway, he's talked about how the narrative is set up, and basically all that they got out of him throughout these previews is like, well, if you do something for... So basically there's 3 main characters that you work for in the game. And they're actually like, they're a husband and wife, and then they have a daughter that's like an android. And so you're basically doing work for them. But the thing is if you pay too much attention to one of them and ignore the others, it has consequences on down the road. So one of the things...
Shore F says, when I joined the game, Westworld was not out yet.
Wow.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, that is a long time ago. Are people saying it's like Westworld?
No, they're just making comparisons to, like, I mean, it's hardly original in terms of, like, you know, the widespread, you know, there's Westworld to this, there's obviously BioShock and System Shock to it, there's...
I mean, Shora worked on this game.
Yeah.
We should, like,
there's
zoom him into the show.
Matrix to this, Sense of Identity, there's Ex Machina here, I mean, you know...
It's borrowing a lot of stuff from a lot of different sci-fi properties, for sure.
So, I mean, all Ken Levine's stuff has always done that. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as you make it your own.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the whole setup. And then again, so how the narrative Lego works is if you are helping one of those 3 people, they will come and show up during fights with the robots and help you. And then they gave another example where if you weren't paying enough attention to one of the other people, they will, like, if you're running away from an enemy, they will, like, shut a door on you so you can't get away from the enemy. So those are the 2 examples that he shared of how that stuff is going to work. I'm not 100% convinced on all that stuff. We'll see. We've heard stuff about that with so many different games at this point, Matt. Much like BioShock, you have a gun in your right hand. You have your elemental abilities, elixirs, as they're called in BioShock, in your left hand. And they do all the typical stuff. So if you're trying to use electricity and there's a puddle of water, you can shock the puddle. And if there's enemies standing in the puddle, it'll shock them. Again, a lot of stuff that we've seen. And we actually saw that in Dead Rising 2, it was. Or Dead Island 2. They even had stuff like that. So even that's not like bleeding edge like tech anymore.
BioShock 1 did that.
Yeah. So. And then there's other elements of the game where you can like hack the robots on the ship. And you can make them passive or aggressive and try to help you in combat. And then like a lot of the enemies in the game, because all the robots were supposed to be perceived as humans, they were actually like the ship doctor or the ship dentist or the ship lawyer or whatever. Those are like the bosses that you fight in the game. These robots who were supposed to take over human roles, who you exposed.
I mean, that's also BioShock. You're fighting like the heads of the communities in that game as well. Like, I mean, more in a Randian sort of like, you know, but like, again, every major boss in BioShock is a community leader, essentially, and that sounds like similar here.
Very similar, yep. And then the final thing that Ken Levine shared throughout his interviews and these previews is that there are also some roguelike elements in the game. He didn't go into a lot of detail about that.
That sure pissed people off.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that.
I mean, I take roguelike stuff as a case-by-case basis, because it's not something that particularly interests me, but it's also not something that like is a deal killer. Like there's ways to implement that you know, like Returnal is great, Hades is great. There's a bunch of rogues that are not great. You know?
Yep. Yeah, I hear you.
Or like the God of War's DLC for that. Like the first game's got it. Yeah, that I like that. That was good. Like, there's ways to do it.
Sure. Yeah. Definitely there's ways to do it that'll make the vast majority of people enjoy it. So we'll see if Ken can figure that out. But that's all the information we have on Judas at this point. We also still don't have a release date. I think it's this year. He didn't say anything in the previews or the interviews. He wouldn't hint at it. So we still don't know.
If they started it before Westworld started airing, I would hope it'd be ready pretty soon.
Well, I remember Shora talking about it in our chat. Like, he didn't give specifics or anything, but he shared, you know, I'm working at that studio like years ago.
There anymore.
Yeah. And that was years ago. Yeah. So it's been under development for a while. It shouldn't be that much longer until it comes out. I might be a little bit surprised if it comes out this year because we still haven't seen like a real chunk of gameplay yet. All we have is a couple trailers of the game so far and some words from Ken. Vincent says, GameSpot's previewer said there's no way it comes out this year. Okay. So there you go. I wasn't very confident it would have come out this year either.
No, I don't think we didn't draft this one for anything.
Nope.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
No, we knew better.
I wouldn't have.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't. Even though I would love to have this on my team. Hopefully I can get it next year. But anyway, there you go. That's the latest on the spiritual successor to BioShock, Judas. Next up, we got some information from... I don't even know where this came from. I think from someone in Western Europe or something like that. But this week on the internet, some very grainy, almost like BlackBerry-sized photographs appeared of the new digital-only Xbox Series X. We're not even going to run them here on the show because literally the photos are like the size of a postage stamp. If you blow them up, you can hardly even see what they are.
But look in the background, Bigfoot is passing through.
But the digital-only Xbox Series X is white. And they haven't really done much to it. The disk drive obviously is gone because it's digital-only. Still shaped exactly the same. It's just white. They did tweak some of the stuff inside, like the heat sink is a little different inside. They did some stuff like that, but otherwise, it's the same thing.
Imagine you expand out into the space that was the disk drive to add more heatsink.
Probably.
Would be what I'd do there.
Matt, I actually have a terrible story to tell about the heat that comes out of the Xbox Series X. So last week...
It really does spit some fire out the top of it.
It is insane. So I was in the back room recording footage for GameFace last week, and my wife is like, hey, dinner's done or whatever, and so I just hit pause, and I put my Elite Series 2 controller on top of the Xbox Series X.
Oh, no.
But it was paused, and like I put it to sleep.
It's still on. No, it's still,
Matt.
It still puts heat out.
Oh, Matt.
It's so
Matt,
crazy.
it ruined my controller. It melted. So I didn't even realize it, but the whole bottom of that controller is rubber.
Yeah.
And it melted all the rubber on the bottom of the controller.
Lucky it didn't drip into the system.
It didn't turn it to liquid. It kind of liquefied it, so it pulled away from the controller. So Justin Horman, that controller that you bought me a couple years ago is now ruined, unfortunately. I still play with it, but it's like the rubber on the bottom is like all bubbled and like peeling away from the controller now. Because it sat there for 30 minutes on top of the Xbox Series X. That's how hot the air is coming out of that thing. So I learned a valuable lesson, like, because I do that with my PS5 as well. Like, I'll have it standing vertically, and when I pause, I set the controller on top of it, so it just kind of just rests on top of it and just kind of sits there and sways. So I just like, I'll just put my controller on top of the Series X. Oh, no. That was a huge mistake.
You never block a vent.
Well, I also noticed on PS5, if you're playing certain games, like, I have to constantly take the cables out, take it back to capture, plug them in, take them out, take it back. Those cables get almost mushy from the heat of the PlayStation 5. If you play it for a while.
I think that's partly where some of them have the problem with the LAN cable thing.
Maybe.
I think that port gets a little distended.
It's so hot. Like, you can, like, bend, like, the HDMI cable, like, in half, like, no problem. Like, these things are making crazy, crazy heat. So, anyway, pro tip, don't set your controller on top of your Xbox Series X.
If I have the Series X on, the room is warmer.
Oh, yeah.
If it's a cold
it'll heat your room. Absolutely. Yep. And so, anyway... Back to the digital-only Xbox Series X. You think there's going to be a market for this thing? Because I didn't feel like there's a market for any Xbox hardware right now. I saw a figure yesterday. It's down 47% in Europe right now.
I mean, is it going to be cheaper? That's the only thing I would say would be.
It should be. Yeah, I mean, probably $50 would be my guess.
I don't know.
Yeah, not much. I don't see it moving the needle at all.
I mean, it feels like rearranging the deck chairs on at least on the Lusitania, if not the Titanic.
Yeah. But... the one thing that we do now know is that it's real. So it was kind of a rumor before, and Phil didn't deny it or whatever when the rumors came out, so we kind of knew it was real, but now we know for 100% it's real. There are photos out there of it. And again, it looks exactly like the Xbox Series X. Instead of being like dark gray black, it's just white, and there's no disk drive on the front. So my guess is we'll probably get an announcement of that at Summer Games Fest.
Sure.
That'd be my guess. And we'll see what the pricing is. I wouldn't guess it would be more than $50 cheaper, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We've been talking a lot about Embracer on GameFace for the last year and a half, mostly in an angry and hateful way, because they've been laying off so many people. They bought up a bunch of studios, thought they were going to be able to flip them and make a profit. That didn't work out, so now they've had to lay off a bunch of people, cancel a bunch of games, etc., etc. Well, the final chapter has finally been written in the Embracer saga, and it ends with Embracer selling Gearbox and Borderlands to Take-Two for $460 million. How do you feel about that, Matt?
Sure. I mean, that's a crazy price for that, I think.
It's less than half what they paid for it like a year ago.
Yeah. But, you got a fire sale when you're in the position Embracers. They just need money of any amount, and that'll keep them alive a little longer, I guess. Also very telling that they would make that sale for that amount of money, that low a price, right before the Borderlands movie comes out this year, because that could really make that property more valuable.
Yeah.
If it hits.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Take-Two got a great deal.
Yeah.
I mean, it got it for less than half of what
and everybody
Embracer just paid.
Everybody at Gearbox gets to keep their job, and Embracer gets fucked. So cool.
Yeah.
All right.
And also, by the way, Borderlands 4 sounds like it's a lot further along than people think. So they also sold a studio that was coming down the home stretch of its next game. So there's value there as well. It's not like Take-Two bought them. Now they're going to have to wait 6 years for the new Borderlands to come out.
No,
so
it's going to be right there. It's what a bunch
it worked out.
What a bunch of idiots.
Who? Which one?
Embracer. what a waste of everybody's time. Like
all trying
Gearbox
to flip it and make a quick
Gearbox and 2Ks and Randy's and it's just like, what the hell were you idiots thinking?
Trying to make a quick buck.
I mean, I know they were trying to turn the thing around and sell Embracer off for billions of dollars to somebody, but it's just like, it's
crazy, honestly.
I mean, they named the company Embracer. Of course, what did you think their plan was?
Well, you figure it would be to embrace the industry.
No, it's because they're embracing all the different things. I mean, they might as well have named it Amoeba.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it means.
Well, here's the thing. So this is it. According to Embracer, that's it. It is now done with its selling. It's now done with its layoffs. It's now done with its game cancellations. That's it. It's finished. So
and now it's going to sit there and do what?
Release games, I guess.
Will it?
I mean, I'll be honest. Like, some of the games that have been canceled, like, some of them we got, like, trailers for them after they were canceled. Like, none of them looked all that great.
No.
Like,
I mean...
Like, Time Splitters, I saw some footage from that. It looked terrible.
No, Time Splitters is of its day.
Yeah.
And it might be time to acknowledge that, like...
It's over.
It's fine.
Yeah.
But, like, maybe we could use some Time Splitters Night Dive quality remakes, like Dark Forces. But do we need a new Time Splitters game? No, we do
Probably not. Yeah.
We definitely do not.
So some of the stuff, like, I kind of understood where Embracer was coming from, but the layoffs and some of them I don't at all.
No,
like,
I mean, they were just
some of them are insane.
They're going for a shotgun approach. Mm-hmm. Originally, it's like, well, we're going to put anything you can think of out. We're going to buy Lord of the Rings. We're going to call this all, But they bought THQ Nordic, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because THQ Nordic, that was almost the company that was doing what Embracer was doing on a smaller scale, and they were putting out really good quality stuff. Like, there was some, I mean, not like amazing.
Remember the last Saints Row?
Oh, well, yeah, but wasn't that Embracer?
Well, it was THQ Nordic. Yeah.
But, like, I'm talking about, like, making new expansions to Titan Quest.
Oh, yeah. Stuff like that made sense.
Bringing Darksiders back, even though that didn't work out tremendously well. But I appreciate the thought.
The effort.
One day, someone might make that sequel to Darksiders 1 that follows up on that ending from, what was that, 12 years ago now? No, that was 2008, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that was 16 years ago. It's been 16 years of a cliffhanger on the end of that game.
It's crazy. Yeah. So anyway, I guess the good news here ultimately is that Embracer isn't going to lay any more people off or cancel any more games for the foreseeable future until it does.
Yeah, pretty much until it does.
But at least it is officially said that now all the cuts are over. And I do feel a little bit better for the people who are working under that umbrella, who basically for the last year have been waiting to get laid off. That is a horrible feeling, knowing that layoffs are coming.
Keep looking.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't stick around. I wouldn't sit back.
I'd be like, okay, I got a paycheck now for a few more months. Then I can now get paid while I look for a new job.
Yes,
which is a big deal. So anyway, it appears that the Embracer saga is mostly over. We'll see if it actually sticks to its word or if it's just a bunch of BS. But at least most of the people working under that conglomerate now can breathe at least a vague sigh of relief, knowing that they have at least a few months here of a grace period to try to figure out what they want to do next. So anyway, Gearbox and Borderlands to Take-Two makes sense. Like, that's kind of where it should have been all along, let's be honest. And they got it for a really, really cheap price. So good on Take-Two. A lot of other publishers could have snatched them up, but somehow Take-Two got them. I'm sure Gearbox is like, we've worked with you guys before. Like, let's see if we can make something happen. And there it is. So there you go. Next up, we just got some information. Well, not some information. We got a trailer that Diablo 4 is finally available on Game Pass. Matt, is this going to move the needle?
No.
You don't think so?
It's too old.
You think it's too old at this point?
Yeah.
Because they're just now getting to their second season and
anybody who really wanted this game has it.
But don't a lot of fans of Diablo actually care about the end game more than playing through the campaign?
Yeah, but they already own the game. Why do they care if it's on Game Pass?
Yeah. You don't think maybe some people waited?
No.
Because we knew that this was going to happen when Diablo came out. Like, Microsoft had already either purchased them or was going to... We knew it was basically a done deal,
we knew
right?
It might happen, but there was no guarantee. No one who really cared about Diablo 4 was just... I'm going to wait until we hit Game Pass 3 years from now. Like, that's not a thing that happened.
Yeah.
You're getting incidental people that didn't even play it yet. It's... No.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to do it. It makes sense to do it, but, like, that's...
Well, this is a milestone. I mean, this is the first game from Activision Blizzard... from that acquisition to go on Game Pass.
Oh yeah.
So it means
it'll matter
something,
it'll matter to
does
future Blizzard stuff, but like this is Diablo 4 is an old game unless you're still playing it, and if you're still playing it, you don't need it on Game Pass.
Yeah. I mean, what did it sell? Like 15 million, something like that, if I remember correctly.
It did fine.
Yeah, I mean, it sold great, for sure. And I'm just wondering if there is a market left, is what I'm getting at. Like, for people who haven't bought it yet that might want to...
I would think not.
Yeah.
So not to any great degree. I'm sure there are people who like will try it out of curiosity or whatever. That already have Game Pass or whatever.
But I wonder if there's any of you guys in our chat who maybe passed on Diablo 4 and maybe now might consider Game Pass now that you can play it for free. Well, yeah, I know you guys hate when we say free, but you can play it on Game Pass with your measly subscription for each month instead of buying the game for full price. Immortan Joe says, I waited. Oh, there's one. Only because I had backlog games when I was playing D2 Remastered on Switch. Okay, so there's a couple out there maybe. Link So Good says Diablo 4 was a bomb. No one talks about it like 3. I don't know about that, man.
It was Diablo 4 a bomb.
Oh, was Diablo 4 a bomb? There's no question mark there. No one talks about it. No. I mean, it sold very, very well.
It sold fine.
I don't know if the end game is as popular as it usually is, but...
I mean, their decisions moving forward have been questionable in terms of... I mean, I don't know. I've played through it and stopped.
Yeah, I mean, I played the campaign. It was like 40 hours. Like, that's enough. Like, that's plenty of time for me to play an isometric action RPG. That's more than enough. Cantano says the problem with Diablo 4 is that last Epoch is out and is vastly superior. And then we got Path of Exile 2 in the near future. Diablo has name power but no staying power. I mean, again, it sold like 14 million copies. Like, it's not a problem. That's a good problem to have. Like, last Epoch, I think you're on an island there, saying it's better than Diablo. I heard a couple people talking about it. It definitely got some buzz and some word of mouth. But I didn't see too many people that said it was better than Diablo 4, at least in my anecdotal life.
No, I mean, I've seen people say like the way they're doing
some things,
like the kind of the online, the roadmap is better than Diablo 4. But in terms of being a better game, I haven't heard that too much.
Yeah, me either. But I did hear good things.
I have last Epoch, but I have not actually played it.
Yeah, so. I haven't played it either. JJ Forcebreaker says, there's still a lot of time wasted, an IP stuck in the limbo freezer. With every passing year, less and less players remember that series. It'll be harder to bring back. I don't know what he's talking about. Time Splitters, maybe?
Deus Ex. He's replying to Vincent.
Oh, someone brought up Deus Ex. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Case Money says it sold a ton, but I don't think it has the same longevity as 3. I don't know. Again, I'm not the person who sticks around and plays this for like 4 years afterwards.
I can't identify with people who played Diablo 3 for 10 years either, so I don't know what to tell you. And also, Diablo 3 people whined about it for the first 2 or 3 years of its existence.
That's true.
I mean, so who knows?
I forgot about that. Rigor Mortis UK says he or she also waited, and he or she will give it a go now. So there's a few. I don't know if it's going to bring back like a resurgence to Game Pass or anything like that.
I think so. Also, like, how many people... this seems more like something where if I never got around to playing Diablo 4 and I have a Game Pass subscription already, so I will try it now. That doesn't actually help Microsoft, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if any of this is going to... if Diablo 4 is going to help Microsoft at all. I just don't see it happening.
I think it's just an obvious step.
It's a nice feather in the cap.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, here we go. Like, here's our first Activision Blizzard game that's on Game Pass.
And it's a signal that in the future you can probably count on that for future Blizzard games. It's fine.
And hopefully much more quickly than the amount of time it took for this one to appear. So. We'll see how that goes. But
I mean, we're coming up on a year of the merger, and we're going to finally start seeing the restructuring, finish up and then settle out into what they plan to do with all these properties and where they plan to put things. You're going to see that more and more going into the summer, I think.
Yep. And then, moving on, we have a Hollow Knight Silksong sighting. We need some kind of a special audio thing that we can play whenever we hear something about Hollow Knight Silksong, because it's just like this game has almost turned into like an urban legend at this point. But yesterday, and this is what threw people into a tizzy, on April Fool's, yesterday, a game page appeared for Hollow Knight Silksong on the official Xbox website. Also, it got an ESRB rating yesterday, which usually means that a game is pretty much finished if they've sent it to the ESRB to be rated. So people are flipping out. They're like, finally, we're getting Hollow Knight Silksong. We're going to get an announcement here in the next couple weeks or something like that, and it's going to come out this year. What say you, Matt Kyle?
A couple weeks seems optimistic.
Yeah.
But it's a good sign.
Yeah. I'll believe it when I see it.
It indicates that you could probably see it released in the summer at some point.
Yeah.
If they're rating it at this point.
Even though it's supposed to come out last summer on Game Pass.
Yeah. Hell, shadow drop it during your non-E3 press conference.
That would be huge. Yeah. So anyway, it looks like there's a ray of light for those of you who drafted Hollow Knight on your video game fantasy teams. I'm one of them, by the way. So I'm hoping, against all other information and data, that this actually makes it out this year. We'll see, but we do have at least a glimmer of hope now that Xbox has come alive and started working on some future promotion for the game. And then our last topic in today's housekeeping is Ubisoft, which has struggled mightily to solve the games as a service conundrum. It has tried with several different games. It has failed miserably in almost all of them, except for Rainbow Six Siege, which kind of came out of nowhere. I don't think anyone expected.
That was kind of accident. It was before they were trying.
That was almost like a mistake. Yeah, it worked out.
Their live service history since then seems to almost be them wondering how they did that.
Yeah. Well, the crazy part about it is the game that we're seeing right now. This game is called X Defiant, and we talked about this on GameFace a year.
Yeah, every time I forget about this game, somebody has to bring it up again, and then I don't get that part of my brain back anymore.
Well, it's actually good, is what I was getting at. I was in the beta for this, and I really enjoyed it. I had a ton of fun playing this game. It is supposed to be like a Tom Clancy hero shooter. It has elements from a bunch of different Tom Clancy shooters all rolled into one free-to-play shooter. I actually had a ton of fun with it, but after that beta a year ago, it just disappeared. And now Ubisoft has reappeared with the game, and it's oh, no, we're reworking it again. Mm-hmm. And it's going to go into beta again. A year later, it's going to have another beta. It does.
Maybe name it something that isn't stupid.
Right. That might help. You might let us call it Tom Clancy Hero Shooter. That might actually make it more successful. Get Tom Clancy into the name.
Just
somehow.
call it Tom Clancy's Kill People and call it a day. What do you need?
You're right. That would work better than X Defiant. That's for damn sure.
Every time you say X Defiant, I have to remind myself what it is.
Right.
I was like, wait, what was it? It's not the rollerblading one, is it? No.
Yeah.
It's not the pirate one. I played that one. No one talks about it anymore after a week after it came out. Mm-hmm. And then, this was the Tom Clancy multiverse thing that expects you to know what End War was. Sure.
I'll be honest. This is the closest that another game has come to Call of Duty. And that may not work out because you can't out Call of Duty. But this game felt really good to play. I liked the maps. I had a lot of fun with it when I played the beta. And so I was surprised that it wasn't released ultimately. And here we are a year later. And I think what this shows, though, look, even with Ubisoft's all the talent there, all the money there, it still can't solve this problem. No. It can't figure it out. It shows you how hard it is to create a game as a service that hits. PlayStation.
You gotta jazz it up, color it up, add some extra, some extra verb to it called Tom Clancy's Fancy Prancy Magic Dancy, and throw in some foam stars.
I don't know about that, but but anyway, if you've been waiting for X Defiant, and I don't know why you would be at this point, most people I think just assumed it was canceled because again,
I haven't thought about it since the last time
we talked about it. I think a lot of people feel that way. It's still in development; they're still working on it. God knows when it's actually going to come out. So. There you go. Again, I think PlayStation's learning this too. It's not as easy as you think. Because the other problem too is there's so much competition now.
I really want to know what's going on internally at PlayStation after Helldivers 2 hit so big.
They may go all in now.
Because there's no possible way they thought Helldivers 2 was going to be the one that did.
No, PlayStation has already admitted it had no. Even the developers of that game
have no idea. And by the way,
they're clueless. They're like, what?
I don't know if you've been keeping. I haven't been playing it much, but I've been keeping up on the updates and what they're doing with it. Mm-hmm. The way they are handling, the way they're updating that game is genius.
Which is funny because they had no plan.
No, but have you seen what they're doing in terms?
I saw that there's it was kind of like what happened in Dragon's Dogma. Isn't there like a sickness that's like going through the game or something?
No, they've added some stuff. So they added like flying bugs at one point, and people were posting screenshots and videos of them, and the developers, including the CEO of the company, were online saying that's all fake. Like you're that's pro bug propaganda, and don't believe any of it. And like people are like, I have footage of it. It's like, no, you doctored that. Like they're basically being in universe like the no, that's not true. There's no such thing as a flying bug.
Yeah.
And then like one of the developers joined a game with like normal players a couple weeks ago and called in an airdrop that dropped in this giant like APC tank vehicle no one had ever seen before, where everybody can get in it and run turrets, and it's like all it just runs over shit. And he just like he like drops it down. He goes, "Oh, I got to go back to work. You guys have fun with the vehicle." And like that's it. All of a sudden, the mechs got put in the game, and they're just out there. So you have to find the plans for the mechs, and they didn't say what planets they're on, so people are just looking for them. There's a third faction coming in, which there's a third faction that showed up eventually in the first game, and they use blue lasers, and they are in what it is believed they are in cloaked ships above certain planets, and every once in a while during a big firefight someone will get killed by blue lasers fired from way too high to be, and it's
like an orbital laser
strikes from the third faction that hasn't been revealed yet. And like they're like, we're not going to give you a roadmap because you're just going to find out what happened. Well, they didn't have one, but also there wasn't a roadmap for the first game because like they just wanted to surprise you. And like
clever,
they've got a guy whose whole his full-time job is just to fuck with the players by messing with the gears behind the scenes,
flipping the switches.
They're basically playing it as a game they're playing against the player base, and it's really, really working.
That's cool. I haven't played it since the week we talked about it. I have no.
Neither have I, but like I've kept up on the updates and kind of all it's the kind of the way I do with it when something interesting happens in the EVE Online. And the way they're doing this is correct. Like they have turned it into almost an ARG for people, and it's brilliant.
It's clever. Yeah, you got to do stuff like that in 2024. That's the answer. How do you make a game as a service click? Stuff like that.
Do that. Like give people a reason to jump in every day because they might see something crazy,
unexpected. They don't know what's going to happen, what they're going to see. Yeah, it's a good idea.
You might go to a random thing and accidentally uncover the blueprints for like the big bipedal mech and get to use that from now on. That could be your. Like, some people have like I found the blueprint on this one planet. Like it's just. That's cool.
Yeah.
Like, that's fun. That's engaging. That feels like you're a part of something that's evolving and moving and interesting and unique. Yeah. And I don't get that from X
Defiant. Yeah.
To the point that I just forgot the name of the fucking game again in mid-sentence there.
That's hilarious. That's a good sign to Ubisoft. Like, you got to change the name of that game. It's just not working.
That name's terrible.
Yeah.
It don't even make any sense.
Yeah. So there you go. That's our housekeeping for episode 382. Before we get on to the bulk of the show, let's hear from our sponsor, LS Cream. LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com/sifted. That's creamls.com/sifted. That's right, people. It's time to cray mass, dadass, and head to creamls.com/sifted and pick yourself up a bottle of LS Cream. Everything there at the website that you need. You can find a bottle locally at your local store, and when you go into the store, this is the bottle that you need to look for. It's very distinctive. You can't miss it when you go into the liquor store. Also, if you go to the website, though, you can figure out how to have it sent to you directly. In fact, if you're watching the show on YouTube right now, there's a link down below in the description that you can click that will take you directly to a place where you can punch in your zip code and get the stuff sent to you. It is incredible. It is one of my favorite liqueurs. I really wonder if I would have ever discovered it if it weren't for our sponsorship.
I wouldn't have.
Yeah. I'm so glad that this has worked out, that Stevens Charles is a huge gamer. that loves gaming just as much as he loves his business. So again, go to creamls.com/sifted. Make sure you use that URL so they can track. And you can go there. There's recipes to make awesome drinks. If you're having a special event, having some people over and you want to impress them. Or if you just love LS Cream, you want to figure out new ways to use it. Everything is there. Go to creamls.com/sifted. And with that, it's time to get on with the heart of GameFace, episode 382. We're going to kick things off with Rise of the Ronin, which is a PlayStation 5 exclusive. And after that, we're going to talk about another PlayStation 5 exclusive. And Matt, normally, when I look at a rundown for our show and I see too many exclusives for one platform, it makes me uneasy. Because we have people who watch the show that maybe they only own a Switch, or maybe they only own an Xbox, or whatever. I try to make the show, and stack the show in a way that it'll appeal to everybody. But Matt, I had an epiphany this morning when I looked at this rundown, and I was like, oh no, I'm like, we have 2 PlayStation 5 exclusives. Then I realized, like, so what? It's all anybody owns. Mm-hmm. It's all that matters. Like, it's so funny. Like, as you think about some of these other podcasts or Patreons that just focus on PlayStation. And at first I was like, oh, that's very short-sighted to just focus on PlayStation. They bet and won. Because, let's be honest, this is the stuff that really matters. The PlayStation 5 stuff. It's what most people are going to play and are going to buy. So, don't take this as me...
I'll see you when Hellblade 2 comes out, but
right.
Other than that, what are we talking about?
Yeah, you know? Right. I mean, don't take this
and
as
it's what
like,
came out.
Yeah. Don't take this as me saying like, oh, we're going to cover Xbox differently going forward. We're not. I'm just saying personally, in my mind, like, I don't feel as bad about stacking a show that's stacked with PlayStation games anymore because it's all you guys have bought. Hardly any of you bought an Xbox. That's just the sad truth. So... this show is slanted a little heavily towards PlayStation today, but again, most of you are like, cool.
Well, also,
that's the console I own.
It's what came out.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
End of discussion.
Pretty much, yeah. That's also part of it. But anyway, just wanted, if some of you...
like, if you're upset it's all PlayStation exclusives, go yell at Nintendo and Microsoft for not putting anything else out next
we
week.
can't force them to release games for the other platforms. So, we're doing the best we can here to make sure we make a show for everybody, though. I just want you guys to know that. So... today, we're going to talk about Rise of the Ronin. It is an open-world action RPG developed by Team Ninja of Ninja Gaiden fame. Although, do you think most people know them for like, Neo now?
I don't think most people know them, period.
At all? We do.
The people who made Ninja Gaiden are long gone.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some people still, but like, the leaders of those teams don't seem to work there anymore.
Yeah, in this game, I feel like is evidence of that as well. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like a Team Ninja game, but I didn't feel like Neo really felt like a Team Ninja game either, so...
no, I mean, it had some of their philosophy in it, but it didn't feel like Ninja Gaiden, obviously. It felt like Dark Souls by way of someone who really, really, really likes bars.
Yeah.
Stamina bars.
In this game, like, it feels like every other game at this point, is challenging. It's not an easy game. I'm just going to tell you right now, full disclosure before we start talking about this, I played the first 5 hours of it on the medium difficulty setting, and I just said, F this, and I put it on the easiest difficulty setting and played it the rest of the way. And never looked back and never gave a shit. And I will do this now going forward. I don't care anymore. I don't care about the whole, like, oh, I beat it on hard. I don't care about that anymore. I want to enjoy video games. And the first 5 hours of playing this game was a nightmare. Just dying constantly, not able to make headway. As soon as I put it on the easier difficulty setting, and I'll let you know that easier, quote unquote, difficulty setting, it's still harder than like any Assassin's Creed game ever. On the easier difficulty setting, it's still harder than Assassin's Creed. But what I'm getting at is like, that's what most people like. They like the difficulty curve of games like Assassin's Creed. I really feel like every game now is like hard as nails. And I really wonder if it's starting to hurt the industry. It's like if you're like my uncle or one of my brothers who kind of plays video games and you only hear about the big games like because they bubbled up in some way or like everyone's talking about them on social media. If you've been doing that for the last couple years, almost every one of those games has been hard as nails.
So I'll counter that by saying it didn't hurt Elden Ring at all.
Has it? Like, we'll see. Like, that's what I was getting at. Yeah, a lot of people bought Elden Ring. Like, my uncle bought Elden Ring. He was like, what the F is this? My brother bought Elden Ring. He played it for 3 hours and was like, what is this? My point I'm getting at is like, why does every game have to be hard? Like, I feel like it's turning off casual people to video games because every big game now is hard. Like,
that's interesting because I have kind of the opposite response to this.
Okay.
I think this game is incredibly stupid.
Okay. Well, I won't disagree with that.
And wait, I mean, probably different, and for probably
For
the same
different
reason
reasons.
you think that, but also different reasons.
Yeah.
I think this game is the most simplistic piece of shit in terms of combat I've played in a very long time, and I don't understand what people are talking about online when they talk about how deep this thing is.
All you need to do, it's all about blocking with the triangle
I don't understand
button.
what they're
That's
talking
it.
about it.
The whole game is driven by blocking with
And
triangle.
here's the thing. I think this game is pretty easy for the most part.
I do not.
The thing is, the hardest thing in this entire game is the first boss fight. And
Really? Which one?
Where you have to fight the Blade Master.
Really?
That's the hardest thing in the game because you don't have the tools fully yet, and you don't fully understand what the hell it's telling you to do.
I found later bosses harder than her.
I did not.
Than her.
I did not, especially once you have allies with you. That was the later bosses weren't much of a problem.
Well, I will say this.
The only time I die in this game is when I try to. Usually, it's when I find a fugitive because each area has all this checkbox stuff you have to do all the things, and there's fugitives there, and it'll tell me that the fugitive of this certain level, and I'm like, okay, that's the level I am, or a few levels below, and I'll go fight him, and that fugitive can do like things that essentially break the rules of the combat as I understand it. Like I woke one guy up, he's just sleeping in the middle of this little park, so he was supposed to be level 9, and I was level 14. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stab him, and because if he's asleep, I can stab him and take half his health off the. And then he just did 4 or 5 red attacks you can't block. You have to like counter or dodge.
Yeah.
But
even the window for countering or dodging the red attacks is like razor thin.
So I'll get to I'll get to that later. That's not important right now. But what I'm saying is, you shouldn't be able to do that because the enemies also use stamina and ki to like kind of like deal with. If you wear their ki down to nothing, you get to do a big attack on them.
Yep.
That's kind of the whole balance of the system.
Which is like Sekiro in a lot of ways.
There's a lot of Sekiro in this game from people who didn't understand why Sekiro works.
Yeah.
But like the pro tip, the fact that Sekiro has no fucking stamina bar is key to why it works.
Right. That's true.
Like the problem with one of the problems with this game's combat system is you constantly are ending up in the situation where like I'm fighting all these guys and we're all cool. Oh, now we're tired and we have to stop for a second.
It's
like,
weird.
What is the point? And you're supposed to throw in, like the same way that Neo had that thing where you could throw in the blade flash thing in the middle of the combo.
This too.
That's in this too, and you get like you can upgrade. Like that's one of the first things I upgraded to give me 15% of my ki back because that's the only way I could keep sustained pressure on somebody.
Yep. Because you're right. If you keep spamming your attacks, you get tired and you can't do anything.
Yeah.
You can't block. You can't attack.
So I played before last week's show. This obviously came out before then, and I came in and I played the intro thing, which is what you're seeing here, and you infiltrate a ship and you come back and you have to leave It's interesting. You create 2 characters at the beginning of this game. Your Blade twins.
Yep.
And you can make them whoever you want. You make them both women. You can make them whoever you want. Complete freedom to design them, decide their weapons they start with, their fighting styles, whatever. And you go in and you fight this thing. And at the end, one of you has to stay behind to let the other one escape. And you choose which one becomes your main character for the whole game, and the other one will obviously become your rival for the rest of the story.
Although you think they die.
Yeah, but they don't because you've seen the title screen. So you didn't make me create a character.
The game makes you think they're dead, yeah.
Except it doesn't because you didn't spend 15 minutes creating a character for them to kill them off in 5 minutes. Like, come on, people.
I didn't even create my second character. I just chose whatever they set up.
I made them both very specific characters.
I just created one, and then just the second one, I just let them pick whatever they wanted.
And also, if you watch the opening intro, they show a guy. The default characters are fighting each other, and one of them has a mechanical arm. So you're like, okay, he got his arm cut off, and that.
Yeah.
But like you go back and basically your Ronin camp whatever gets attacked by ninjas, and I don't remember why, and you have to fight your way through a bunch of ninjas, and you get there and you realize that your Blade twin is still alive and out there doing something somewhere, so you want to go find them. And the old lady, the Blade Master, is like, no one can leave the village, so you have to fight her.
Which is absurd.
That fight sucks.
And
I got killed.
It took me a bunch of times.
I killed like three or four times, and I just put it down and went back to Dragon's Dogma 2. And after we didn't talk about it on the show last week, I went back and I'm like, okay, I guess I'll try this again. And I did get through it after a couple more tries, and I have basically never had a problem with a boss ever again.
Because I died so many times in this before I changed the difficulty. So many. Like, rank and file guys would kill me sometimes. The camera would catch them. They just come off a screen and hit me, or I just wouldn't pay enough attention. And like some attacks will take half of your health, and if you're not paying attention and using the health replenishers,
they do. Everybody does do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
But one of the things I learned was, don't take stupid risks. They keep talking about using the counter spark attack to like deflect bullets and just block.
Ninja stars.
Just fucking block. Unless you really know you're gonna get it, just block. It's not
the other
worth
thing
the
too
risk.
is if you do time it perfectly, and they throw like a star at you or whatever, and you deflect it, you don't have enough time to get to them to deliver the attack before the stun wears off. If they threw the star from like 20 feet or whatever, by the time you get to them, it's worn off and they're ready to fight again.
Well, if you hold triangle, you will do a dash attack at them, which usually
it won't always reach. Though.
It won't always reach, but usually it will reach.
Yeah.
But you can't bet on it. And the weird thing about this game is there aren't any attacks out of running. Mm-hmm. You know, like normally in a game, especially an open world game, you'd expect if you're
dive
sprinting,
attack or
if you hit an attack button just to start a fight or something, you'd get like a sprinting attack or extra like a little baseball. That's not in this. Yeah, there's none of that.
No.
It's real weird. It feels real weird to play this early on, and I'm still. I have played this game for probably 20 hours. Mm-hmm. I am still hitting the wrong button to sprint.
Me too.
Because it's circle.
I changed it.
I keep clicking.
I changed it.
The left stick.
I changed it to
and
click
that's
stick.
Stealth. And I'm just like, oh.
I flipped them. I flipped circle and click in the stick. The problem though is that like I can't figure out how to like toggle the sprint.
There is no toggle for the sprint.
So you have to click and hold the click down to run.
Well, if you hold it for a certain number of seconds, it will stay.
As long as you keep it pushed all the way up.
No. You have to hold it for a second or two.
Oh, really?
And then you can let go and it will keep sprinting.
It's weird how it works.
The reason is because the sprint button is also the dodge.
Right.
So that's why I didn't put it on the stick, because I can't click.
No, it actually the dodge still stays on the circle. It'll just move just the sprint. Yeah. Although sometimes I go to sprint and he does do a roll. You're right.
It's the same button.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
You might have just doubled the buttons up.
But see, for me, all I've been doing through this whole game is timing triangle, which is, what do they call it? The
counter spark.
The counter spark. Because they tell you over and over, use counter spark, and it does work. If you time it right, it will like basically stun them and give you an opening to go in and do your thing. However, like the window for that is so narrow that like if I play it on my TV where my PlayStation is plugged directly into the television, I can nail almost every single one. When I would take it back and put it in my capture equipment where it introduces like 20 milliseconds of lag or whatever, then I was like 50-50 on whether I could time it or not. So that shows you how thin the window is to nail those. But I've been going through the whole game playing that way because to me, the game isn't really about like chip damage. It's about doing like major damage. And to do that, you have to basically, as we talked about earlier, you have to whittle down their key so they don't have any, and it leaves them open. And for me, doing that counter spark, whatever the hell it's called, basically like wipes out their key like right away. And you can go in and do like a big time move that takes off like half of their health or whatever. And that's how I've been playing the game.
I mean, that's more or less how it's supposed to work. The problem is that like Sekiro works with that sort of system because Sekiro doesn't have stamina.
Yeah.
It's all timing. And so if you get hit from the timing of Sekiro, it's a disaster. This one, you just kind of keep trying over and over again. You can keep interrupting stuff if you get hit in the combo. Like you're not there's not really any stun locking in this game.
Yeah.
You can so like you can keep trying, but you might just lose too much life. But generally not. Like it's not that. And also when you've got allies, you can actually switch between them.
Yep.
There's a whole thing in this where like certain fighting styles and weapons, you know, like you kind of Rochambeau like against other ones. So you'll see if you see like
rock paper scissors.
You see an enemy with like red arrow, it means your fighting style is not effective against his fighting style. Guess what? You're still gonna win. Like, it does a little bit less key damage. I think you can like probably dominate them better if you switch to something that but I've never needed to do that to win a fight. Like,
you can still spam just your quick strikes and win a lot of battles.
You're gonna run out of stamina.
It's gonna get awkward at the end. You're both gonna be out of stamina.
But if it's not like a big enemy, if it's just like a random soldier, I'll run up. I do a 3-hit.
I just spam.
I do a 3-hit light combo. Sometimes I'll throw in a triangle afterwards. I'll hit the R1 to do the blade flash to reset my stamina, and then before they can recover, I can hit them again. Like those rank and file enemies do not stand a chance anymore. And weirdly, one of the things I had to learn early on was that I was expecting them to be better than they were at fighting. Like if you've got 3 guys around you and you have targeted one of them, like you have your target, that's the only guy who will attack you 9 times
No, you're
out
right.
of 10.
The rest will just
they
dance
will
around.
all just stand around and wait.
It's
and
like
so
Assassin's Creed.
And so I kept standing there waiting for them to do something and waiting to and I was like, oh, I'm going to block over here. Oh, I'm going to counter over here.
Nope.
And like, no, it's just I was just
Doesn't
reacting
happen.
to nothing. And so one of the reasons I was getting hit was I was expecting them to be more aggressive, and they just aren't.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
But even on the easier difficulty setting, obviously...
Unless they're off camera. Then they'll hit you from behind
Yeah.
after you've killed another guy. It's strange.
Yeah, even after I put it on the easier difficulty setting, I still died every once in a while. I would still die a few times to each boss, and like I said, if you get overwhelmed sometimes and some dude attacks you from off screen, I would still die.
It's a very weird combat system for an open world game.
Yeah.
That's really what it was weird to me, because you're basically riding around playing like an Assassin's Creed kind of thing, where you're all these different things to do and these different you're riding a horse around, which, by the way, you can get better horses that are faster, but one of the other stats the horses have is stamina, and if the horse can run out of stamina, I have never seen it happen.
Me either.
There's no
and I've ran a long
you gallop
ways.
as long as you want. I don't know what the stamina
Yeah.
is. If it means that, but maybe it means like, well, no, that's not the thing for like getting knocked off the horse, because that's a different stamina. That's a different stat. The harnesses upgrade. I don't know what the stamina means in this game. For
Yeah,
the
I mean,
horses.
there's a whole thing in this game too where you get like horse armor and different tack that you can use.
Well,
and
this
it
is
affects your...
just the usual Team Ninja thing these days of just systems on systems on systems.
It gets ridiculous.
They just don't matter.
It's
And,
ridiculous. Like, I just got overwhelmed with it after a while. Like, there's this
Look
whole...
at that. I mean, look at that. You can hold 2,000 items.
Dude, the other thing about this game is, like, selling all the stuff you get is a full-time job. Like, you get so much. You don't even realize it.
Tons and tons.
You don't even realize it until you go look in your inventory. You're like, oh my god, I won that fight. I just got 30 things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, literally, it's a full-time job to sell off all the crap that you get that you don't want. Like, the gear creep in this is crazy. Like, literally, you just get another sword that's, like, 2 more powerful than the one you had before. Or you'll beat a boss, and you'll get a sword that's, like, 80 powered higher than anything else, and you keep that sword for the next like 6 hours or whatever. Like,
and then like there's an upgrade, like a blacksmith upgrade thing, but it doesn't upgrade anything enough to be worth.
But they keep pushing you to it.
They keep telling you to go there. I was like,
why?
I'm going to spend 2,000 money and like a bunch of resources to upgrade this 5 damage when I could just use this other sword that's like 50 more that I picked up from a random side quest. It's very weird.
And here you're seeing the skill trees. There's 4 different skill trees based upon your 4 different attributes.
4 different skill trees and 5 different upgrade points.
Yeah.
There's general skill points, and you'll see there it says that's charm points. Every tree has its own charm points, intelligence points, dexterity points, and strength points, and you can only get the specific points from doing certain things and accomplishing certain stuff, or getting certain items that add one for you, like manuals and stuff. And those are your bottlenecks. On this. Like you have to use the specific to the tree skill points to open certain skills, and until you get them, you're stuck.
The currency's all goofy too. It's like the main currency that you get is worthless. There's nothing you can buy it. Like you get these other separate silver coins.
Standard money only goes towards blacksmithing and like buying like health stuff from the apothecary. The real currency is this silver plate stuff you get from other things, including the cat concierge minigame, which is not what that's the best thing in this game is the cats. Like one of the collectibles is literally all the cats in Japan, and you go pick them up and hug them, and they run off. And then there's a geisha who loves all the cats and like basically gives you rewards for bringing enough cats. But then you still
have to pay with the silver coins, though.
Oh yeah, but you get them every time you get a cat. You get some silver coins.
Yeah,
and like eventually, and then the calicos you have to sneak up on, which is accurate. And it's. Again, this is just this cat system, and then at your longhouse, at your home base, you eventually get the cat concierge system, which is like the old Assassin's Creed ship games, where you pick a mission and you check your cat stats, and you send a cat out, and the cat's gone for like an hour, and then it comes back with rewards. And then there's a dog equivalent with a Shiba Inu as well, where you can put money on the dog, and the dog goes to other people's games, and however many people pet the dog, that's how many random items he comes back with. And I've gotten some like god tier items,
like really good stuff.
If you give the dog 10,000 money and send him out and come back in like 3 hours, I got a charm that upped my ki like a
ton
regeneration by like 17%.
Wow!
Like it changed how I fight.
But to Matt's point, the systems, that's just the scratch on the surface. They keep piling on. There's this whole like bond system with other characters where if you do things for them, you create this bond, and then that determines whether you're like pro Shogun or anti Shogun.
Well, that's a separate thing.
It's insane.
So the bond stuff is like you can get their fighting styles and certain bonuses from them, and then all the Bond allies are separated into either pro shogunate or anti shogunate, and when the story missions come up after a certain point, you'll see they are split into a pro shogunate or anti shogunate version. You have to choose which mission giver to go to depending on the color. Like I think purple is pro shogunate and green is anti. And the problem is
here you can see the Assassin's Creed sinking the area. And
the problem is the pro shogunate thing. Like, they don't do a very good job of incentivizing you to pick one or the other because, like, the pro shogunate is, so far, is the head of the geisha house who is clearly manipulating everybody to do what she wants them to do. And the red demon, who's the big, the prefect guy, I remember the local daimyo, I think it is, and he's this is all historically based. It's in Yokohama, which was the first Western port in Japan, and it covers the period of time in 1859 when they signed the treaty that basically opened Japan to the West.
Yeah, because Japan was like an isolationist country.
In isolation for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And this is the first contact with outside people they'd had in forever.
And that's what this whole game is about.
That's why Yokohama looks like a European town, because the Europeans who came in basically built it up that way. And the guy, he's trying to sign a deal with them and bring people in, and he's known as the Red Demon, and historically he basically perpetrated a reign of terror on this part of Japan during the period of time, and you see that in this game.
Yeah.
So you could side with him, or you could side with the anti-shogunate, which is a group of the coolest dudes you've ever met.
Right.
Like there's one guy who gets
but you don't want to be a part of them.
There's one guy who gets drunk all the time. There's one guy who's just a wacky dude who wanders the countryside shooting people whenever he wants to. There's one guy who's addicted to gambling. Like here's
the drunkard right here.
The drunkard just gets drunk and fights people and forgets he did it.
Well, you fight him the first time he's drunk. Yeah.
That's a pretty hard fight.
Yeah, that is a hard
because you're not
fight.
Expecting it.
Yeah.
And like you're stuck in this little area with
courtyard. Yeah. Oh, I found a lot of fights to be hard in this. Again, like I don't feel any guilt for turning down the difficulty in this. Like I actually moderately enjoyed the game once I did that. Like I have no shame, and I won't going forward. I'll have no shame. Like I just want to enjoy playing video games. Like they don't need to be torture to me. Like every once in a while, playing a tough game, cool. I don't want every game I play to be like this, and it feels like all of them are like this now. Like,
well, everything Team Ninja makes is like this now.
But it just feels like, going back, like, we're going to talk about a game in a minute that's like this. Like, 3 games I played last week were like this, where you just die to any enemy. And, like, I just don't think this is a good way for the industry to go forward. I think it's catering to the core. It's like, okay, we can make these games and we'll sell 8 million or whatever. But, like, if you want to hit 15, 20 million, generally, Elden Ring the exception, that's not going to happen. Like, I think a lot of people are starting to figure out that they're making games. They're not making games for them anymore. They're making them for us, like the crazy, hardcore gaming maniacs that we are. And, like, I'm not ashamed to say that I am, but, like, I don't know if it's good for the market that all these games are being made for us, Matt. I just don't know if it is.
I mean, I don't really know what you're talking about here. Like, if you could give me some examples.
Well, I just talked about how, like, my uncle and my brother hated Elden Ring. And they're like, wait a minute, this is, like, the big thing that everyone's talking about? This is, like, they went and bought it. Like, they're like, dude, look at the reviews of this game. Look at all the people talking about it on social media. This game has to be for everybody. This has to be an awesome game everyone's going to love. And they went and bought it, and they're like...
that certainly isn't this.
And they're like, what the hell is... This isn't Elden Ring, but it's still hard.
I mean, it's still taking cues from the Souls... I mean, this game doesn't exist in the form it exists in if the Souls games don't hit.
Yeah.
Back when they did.
I mean, look, I'm glad Team Ninja finally put an easier difficulty setting in their games. This is the first one.
I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah, they finally relented.
Well, I mean, they did have difficulty settings in Ninja Gaiden.
But even the easiest was still hard, basically.
Ninja Dog was not a walk in the...
I was surprised when I turned it down on this. They didn't give me, like, a bandana or something to signify I was playing it on, like, the easier setting, but... They're very cool about it, I guess is the way I would put it. So, I don't know, man. To me, this is another one of those games that, like, either you turn down the difficulty or you're going to be pulling your hair out half the time. And the other thing...
I'll just say, if you're a veteran of Souls games, this is going to be pretty standard difficulty for you.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
Yeah, it's not as hard as, like, Dark Souls.
It's not that hard, and the main thing is, the problem with the difficulty in this game is that the game's tutorial and, like, pop-up windows make you think that it's way harder than it's going to be. Because... you can just ignore most of the systems that are layered on this thing's combat system and just fight people. Like, it doesn't matter.
The other thing I found in this game,
just be aware of your stamina and know that, like, if you figure out if you understand the timing of, like, an attack and you know you can counter it, do it, and stab them when the red dot pops up. That's it. It's real simple to the point of being irritating now.
Or just run. I found that you can just run away from and run past almost everything in this game.
Nobody can catch you. Like it's
and they don't follow you for a long distance.
In terms of the open world stuff, if you get in trouble, just run away.
Yeah. Or you can just, even if you can't get past like a section of the game, just run through it. I had points before I turned down the difficulty where I was like, I can't get through this. I'm tired of fighting these same 20 dudes over and over. Because the other thing, too, is like the checkpoints in this can be freaking brutal, man. Like there was one section I played where literally it was like 30-some minutes between checkpoints. Like literally.
This is you playing?
No, this is a trailer. This is Team Ninja.
Okay, I was going to say that was a solid counter.
No, this is Team Ninja playing. So anyway, again, if you're like me and you're like, I don't mind playing a hard game every once in a while, like this one to me is right on the fringe. Again, it would be different if the rest of the game was rewarding in a real way. Because we haven't even really got to the root of the problem with this game, Matt, which is that it's just effing boring. It is boring beyond anything I've played. I do not care about, and I'll say this, Matt, it's making me wonder whether I should care about like Assassin's Creed Red, like because it's the same setting, and it's like it just doesn't interest me. Like it's
what do we know?
It's set in feudal Japan, right?
This is not feudal Japan, though. This is Meiji Restoration Japan. This is a very different.
We don't know a lot about Red yet, honestly.
I don't know if we know when Red is set. I mean, I think a feudal Japan set, because look. You know what else is said as a samurai epic in Japan is Ghost of Tsushima, and that's great.
Ghost of Tsushima makes this. It shows you though, like how it's done right.
Oh yeah,
like
100%.
Playing through this game, it makes you realize so many things in Ghost of Tsushima where they made the right call. Where you're like, oh, I see now why they decided to do it that way in Ghost of Tsushima because it doesn't freaking work and it's boring as hell. Matt, there's a section of this game where you go to like basically like the red light district where all the geishas are and all the prostitutes are, and it's still boring as shit. It's like, if you can't make going to the red light district interesting, what the hell? Like the whole game is like that. Nothing ever happens where I'm like, oh, that's interesting or that's cool. Like I just found this game dreadfully dull.
I mean, I thought it was funny when you had to fight the admiral guy. His name was Matthew Perry.
Right.
That's a real historical person. That's why his name is that. But it's like, that's funny. You're fighting the guy from Friends.
Unintentional humor, yeah. But one thing I will say that I did like about it, like, you can get around the world pretty easily. There's fast travel out the yin-yang. Like, if you've seen in the B-roll, you have a glider, you have a horse. You can actually work in tandem. Like, you can glide, and then while you're about 20 feet off the ground, call your horse, and your horse just swoops in right underneath you, and you land right on the horse and keep riding. Like, there's cool little stuff like that in the game. But otherwise, like, I just found it dreadfully dull and boring.
Well, then like they're showing like all the pulling and the like stealth killing. Like the stealth in this game is awful. Like it's just like you have no idea where anybody is until later in the game when you get a bell that lets you see where people are. And then I realized after a couple times using it, they can hear the bell
when you ring the bell.
When you ring the bell, they'll be like, "What was that?" And I was like, "That's not the point of a fucking thing like that. What are you doing?" Like.
Yeah.
It's so annoying. There's nowhere to hide.
Yeah. I really struggled to squeeze entertainment out of this game. I gave it everything I had. I lowered the difficulty. I tried, and I made headway. It was crazy. I'll say this too. It was crazy how fast I could go through the game on the easier difficulty setting.
I've made a fair amount of headway. I mean, I've played a lot of the open world stuff. Wandering around the world and doing random stuff is still mildly entertaining to me. But I keep thinking of Outcast. That had a similar, but like Outcast didn't have the self-seriousness of this, so it wasn't as obnoxious when the cutscenes started. It felt like the stuff you were doing was a little more thematically related to things. It didn't feel everything like the cat thing in this is great, but it feels so dissonant with the rest of the game. All the open world collectible stuff none of it really gels together into something that feels like a coherent whole, as opposed to like Ghost of Tsushima, where like the combat system felt like it was just complex enough and had enough to it that an open world game that you could run into fighting at any time, like it made more sense. Whereas this, I'm not kidding, I have like 30 different fighting styles I can swap between like 9 different weapons, and I'm like, I'm just going to use the normal sword. I don't need them, because like I don't understand.
I use a katana as well.
I have 7 fighting styles just for the katana.
I know. They put too much focus in the wrong places, and no one cares. Yeah, it doesn't matter. They worked way too hard on stuff that no one's going to notice and no one's going to care about, and didn't work enough on the stuff that's obvious. Like, I don't know.
Also, I can tell you who Jin is in Ghost of Tsushima. Like, he's a character. He's a person. Like, he has feelings about things. I know how he thinks about things, and I know that he has a big thing about honor and wants the respect of his uncle, but he but he also knows he have to do whatever he has to do to protect Japan and protect his people. He also loves animals, and he was more concerned about what happened to his horse after the shipwreck than almost anyone else who was on the boat, which I respect.
Yeah.
One of the reasons he can get to the fox shrines is the foxes know he's a good dude, and he's going to pet them afterward. Like, it all, there's a tapestry of this character that I can put together, in part because he actually has scenes with people. Every once in a while, your character talks in this. You get to pick a voice for them.
Yeah.
But, like, they only talk. Like, my character only talks when she beats the boss, basically, and there's a little cutscene, and she says like a rudimentary word, and which might be AI generated. I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, the voice acting in this is terrible, Matt.
Voice acting is a bunch of choices. Everyone in this game seems to be a Japanese native speaker who knows English well enough.
Kind of knows English, yeah.
But some of the accents in this are like, I kept the subtitle. I never keep the subtitles on if I'm using English voices because I don't. It distracts me, and I'd rather. I had to keep them on because like sometimes I don't know. Also, it hit a point where I'm like, I'm just gonna skip through I'm just gonna read the text and jump through this because like this did not need much like Yakuza. There's moments where Yakuza is better back in the day when it was just like there were voiced cutscenes and like 90% of the game was just text boxes you could jump through. This game is that too. It's like, no, just get me. I get the gist of it. I understand it. We're gonna the Shogunate is evil. Go to the thing, meet the thing, kill the people. I get it. There's no complexity here that you need to understand to get through the game. The characters are incidental for the most part. A lot of stuff happens kind of out of order. Like, you get the glider pretty early on, and you immediately can jump off a thing and start gliding around and get straight. Basically, it's very funny, actually. Early on, one of your big goals is to get this permit that lets you get through this checkpoint that's closed off to get to Yokohama. And in the mission where you go up and get your first ally and go get the permit by beating this one boss, you then get the glider in his storehouse, and you can just glide down to Yokohama, and you never need to get past the checkpoint.
Yeah, you know you need to get...
Like, the permit is never important. You just glide right into Yokohama, and nobody reacts to it at all.
Yeah.
And then later you run into the guy who invented the glider, and there's a whole thing where he teaches you how to use the glider. He's like, it might work. I don't know. It's really experimental, but it should work. The science is sound. I'm like, yeah, I know. I've been using it for like 4 hours, dude. It's fine. You're good.
That's straight out of Assassin's Creed 2. Who was it that built you stuff in Assassin's Creed?
Leonardo da Vinci.
Da Vinci. It's the same thing with this guy. Like, you bring him resources, he builds you contraptions.
Except this takes much, 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 much longer.
Right. Yeah.
Because he wants these like foreign books from things, and there's no way to really know where you get foreign books from as rewards for things. And it's just, that's the thing. There's so many times in this game where I'm just like, between the upgrade system and how the skill points work, and how you have to upgrade and build your relationship and bonds with these other characters to unlock things you then need to unlock the next thing you want. Like, so many times I just felt like I'm stuck. I don't know what to do next. I guess I'm just gonna go run around and do random shit because like the next mission I don't. And
it won't automatically like keep you on the main quest path is what I found. You have to start looking through the quest and try to figure out which one is like the main quest. Like, I've struggled to...
The top one is always the main one.
Is it?
And they have a different...
Because it feels like
they're have different color.
They're often lower level, like the main quest.
Oh, the main quest is often lower level. Yeah. When I first got all the anti-shogunate allies, and you meet them all and you do the thing, they gave me the next main quest, which was level 5, and another quest to do with the first ally you get, the rogue Han Solo guy. That was level 10, and I was level 8 at the time, so I couldn't do that second. So I came back to it later after I'd gone through more stuff. But yeah, it's a little weird. And then like, so the levels don't really always matter. Like, you get there's a photograph there's taking pictures of
photography element to the game.
Photography element, which is bizarre.
It's bizarre.
Somebody invented.
Plus the camera is like this big.
Camera's like this, like, but also it spits out the picture, so it's apparently a Polaroid. Who knew? So there's one of the open world things is taking pictures of landmarks, and that's marked on the map. But then you can go to the photograph guy, and he'll give you specific missions. And all the first set of missions were all listed as level 9, and I couldn't figure out why they were listed as level 9, because they're not combat missions.
Why would they be rated at all?
And apparently it's just because they're in areas of the map that are rated as level 9 areas. So you can't always trust. So then I'm like, well, then why is the other guy's quest level 10? Because it's in the same areas as always. Because I'm fighting a stronger guy. It doesn't tell you a lot. It doesn't even tell you much about the choices you're making, where once you start getting to the main missions where you have to pick between pro shogun and anti shogunate, it doesn't really explain to you what the consequences of choosing one or the other is going to be, except there's like a bunch of rewards on one side and there, and both of the rewards seem just about as useless.
Same, yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, there's a couple of like gestures I can do, which I don't understand why I want to do gestures, because this is not an online game and like, no one reacts to them anyway, so who cares?
Weird.
Like, I don't know what to make. There's so much stuff packed in this thing that I'm like, why is this here?
And I don't care about like any of it. Yeah,
it's like weirdly bloated, but it also feels kind of like empty.
Yeah,
like, I don't know how to describe it. It feels
also,
like there's
you guys
too
have
much.
you guys have been seeing the graphics as well. This is not a good looking game by any stretch of the imagination. Like, even though it is an open world game,
it's not bad looking, but it's nothing special, I would say.
I think parts of it look kind of bad. Some of the character models I thought looked pretty rotten, and then if you're like riding at any semblance of speed, like everything is just drawing in, and like the LOD is really bad. Although we've had games with that over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it hasn't bothered me much. I think I have it on balance setting. So
I have it on ray tracing, the highest graphical
I don't
setting.
have it. Yeah, that's why you're getting all that, because the performance is really bad.
It's not a good-looking game.
They need to update it.
And it doesn't run very well either.
No, it runs very well.
Oh, on your setting it does, not on mine.
It runs very smooth on mine.
No, not if you put it on ray tracing, it does not.
I
run
did not
smoothly.
put ray tracing on. I already read that setting is really needs patching bad.
Yeah. So I stuck around. I played also about 20 hours of this. I really have very little interest in continuing on. I probably will not play any more of this. There's no...
It just made me want to play Ghost of Tsushima again.
Yeah, there's no carrots dangling there that are exciting or enticing to make me want to keep going. I'm just like, is it just going to be more drab characters I don't care about, more plot that I don't care about?
Well, you're not riveted by the story of your inexplicably evil twin now?
Are they going to add another system that I don't care about, like, at the 25-hour mark? Like,
probably.
I mean, I don't know.
They added gambling.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter.
It has no...
the training thing... And there's like I don't know. There's so much weird shit you can do, and I'm just like, but why?
Yeah.
For what? It's like, oh, you get loot for it. I'm like, I have 400 swords. I don't need more. And none of them are as good as the one I've been using for 10 hours. I don't know
and I have
what
tons
to tell
of money too. Like I did not really enjoy it. I enjoyed it more after I dropped the difficulty setting. Playing it on the default difficulty setting, I was literally going to throw it off of the deck of my apartment. I was like, I didn't want to play it at all. And then once I dropped it down to the easier difficulty setting, then I actually enjoyed it a little bit, like playing through it.
Oh yeah, I guess there is co-op.
Yeah, we forgot to mention that. Yeah. So one of the cool things about this is probably the coolest thing about the game, I think, is some missions you go to do them, and they give you the option to like call in for help. And you can call in your friends list, people on your friends list if they're playing, or you can just ask for random people. They are not.
I don't have anyone on my friends list except you playing this.
But I'll say this, like every time I put out a call, there were people there in like 30 seconds to play. And it makes a world of difference. The other thing too is that like I could be playing the bulk of the game on the easier difficulty settings. Then if I call in people to help, I can jack it up. And I don't even know if there's any reason to do that.
I don't think
it doesn't seem like it. But still, I'm
sure
jack
there's
it up.
a trophy for beating it on whatever difficulty at the end.
I tend to jack it up because I think I'll be more likely to match with people if I put it on the default difficulty versus the easier one. And sure enough, within 30 seconds, there's 2 people there ready to play. And if you play with 2 other people, you can accomplish these missions in like a minute sometimes. Like, if you're a good people who know what they're doing, like sometimes they just leave me in the dust and I'm like running to catch up with them. By the time I get there, the mission's over and they've already beaten the boss or whatever.
That's classic Souls co-op.
That's the coolest part of the game to me, being able to call in for help. The rest of it,
I've never done it.
You haven't done it?
No. I don't need it. I have the computer-controlled allies are more than enough, and you can switch to them whenever you want.
Yeah.
So, no problem.
And that does help with bosses. So if, like, you're fighting a boss, and the character you're playing as is about to die, and you switch to the other one.
Or if they do die, you switch to another guy, resurrect your character,
right, you can quickly roll over to them, and then resurrect your character that just died, and switch right back to him and start playing with him again. So you're right, like, as you play more and you start to understand like the ins and outs of stuff, like it does start to get a little bit easier or more manageable, I would guess.
Once you learn what you can ignore, basically. Like that, once you realize like how little of it needs to actually be paid attention to or used regularly to make progress, it becomes a lot more manageable.
Yeah. Matt, I would not recommend that people buy this.
No. I don't know.
I would say go buy Ghost of Tsushima or just play it again.
Yeah.
Instead of this.
And if you want an open world game, go play Dragon's Dogma 2.
There's a millions of other games
or anything else, but like, or maybe if you want like a better modern, with doing interesting things with the open world, play Dragon's Dogma 2. If you want a throwback kind of mildly empty, just go to point and accomplish basic objective open world game, go play Outcast: A New Beginning.
I liked Outcast more than this game.
Same. Oh yeah, for sure, 100%, 100%.
Which is crazy to say.
Way more imagination, way more stuff.
It's just fun. It
knows,
was just more
it knows
fun
what
to
it
play.
is. It doesn't pile all this extra crap on it for no reason. No, it's a pure, distilled like baseline open world game.
It was just more enjoyable. Like, I just didn't have fun playing this game. Like, I just didn't.
I didn't dislike this game, but it's not worth $70.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's not particularly engaging most of the time.
Yeah.
I did enjoy the most enjoyment I got out of this game is the same enjoyment I get out of most open world games. Is once you let me go and I can just run around doing whatever I want, and I can put a podcast on and just do that for like 3 hours. Just did that just fine.
Yeah.
But I would argue that because sometimes you get in a fight and you actually end up having to fight for your life because sometimes these guys are tougher than you think they're going to be, it's not really a very good kick back and relax open world game.
No.
So I'm not sure who to recommend it to.
That's why I can't recommend it to anyone. I would not buy it.
Like if you're a Souls pro who wants like a rudimentary, it's the first. It's very clearly the first open world game Team Ninja's ever made. Like it's that's true. It's people have been calling it an empty world, and it pretty much is. Like there's not a lot happening.
Filled with just stuff you don't want to do.
Filled with endless. I mean, there's like NPCs everywhere. I mean, it's not a dead world. It's not like empty in terms of there's literally no objects.
There's
in it. There's nothing
to
do.
Yeah.
Like if you're confident in your stamina meter management and you want to apply that to a random open world game where you can run around and you liberate little villages and do that, go nuts. But again, I'm still not happy I paid $70 for this.
Yeah.
It's like
even after what happened to me with Dragon's Dogma 2, I 1000% recommend Dragon's Dogma 2 over this game.
Yeah, it's just doing more interesting things.
Yep.
And that game also has systems on systems on systems.
It does, yeah.
But most of the systems matter.
Yeah.
And
I also found in my mind mixing up the two games. Like when I was thinking of this morning, when I was thinking about like what am I going to say when I talk about I realized I started pulling elements from Dragon's Dogma 2 into this game for some reason. I'm like, oh no, wait, that's actually Dragon's Dogma 2. So anyway, that's Rise of the Ronin. It is a PlayStation 5 exclusive. I wouldn't say that's 2 thumbs down from Matt and I, but that's 2 don't buys.
Yeah, it's kind of too. I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's not bad.
You think they'll make a sequel?
I don't know.
I think they will.
I don't know if this
because it's competent.
I don't know if this thing's going to sell enough to warrant that.
Well, my guess is PlayStation paid a ton of money for the development, and the money isn't that important.
Well, you know what that also describes? Bloodborne.
Yeah. It also means that they allowed PlayStation to take the risk.
Right, exactly.
They're like, well, this failed. Now we didn't lose the money.
No, we learned a lot from building this open world, and now we can go make our own game we own and make it good.
Yeah.
And that I would play.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely interested in what they do next with this, but a lot of this feels like proof of concept to me.
Yeah, I agree. So there you go. That's Rise of the Ronin. Again, it's a PlayStation 5 exclusive. Next up.
And again, aren't you glad they didn't just make a Ninja Gaiden game?
Why don't they?
Because they can't.
Yeah, I don't think they can anymore.
That's not there. Because if the Ninja Gaiden game would have a stamina bar.
Yeah.
Like, this is what that would be.
No, you're right. Yeah. Next up, as I mentioned earlier, hinted earlier, another PlayStation 5 exclusive, a game that a lot of y'all have been tracking for a while now, a game that Matt and I have been reluctant to embrace. It is a game called Stellar Blade. We talked to you guys about it last week. We mentioned that there was a demo going up on the PlayStation Store. That happened. Matt and I both downloaded it. We both played it from the beginning to the end, and now we're going to talk about it. Before we get going, Matt, what is the thing that surprised you the most about Stellar Blade now that you've actually played it?
How limited the combat is.
Okay. A lot of people's previews, they were surprised at how deep the combat was.
I don't know what they played.
Yeah.
I mean, some of this is because some of the, if you want to call it depth, is locked behind the skill tree early on. But I was expecting more of a Devil May Cry
juggled stuff,
Bayonetta clone, and it isn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't have half the variety and the depth that those games do. This is more. There's a lot more Nier Automata in this one.
He said he was inspired by it.
I can see
the lead
that.
developer.
I mean, I assume that was because you're playing a robot sex pot, more than like what the game. And and certainly he was not inspired by the content of the narrative of Automata, because that's not here at all.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing I might say I was not surprised by, but I guess impressed by, the technical presentation on this is flawless.
It looks really
good.
It
is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like all the space stuff here is amazing. All the stuff on the like the detail in the game in terms of the visuals, in terms of just the rocks on the ground, amazing. Like they knocked it out, and it runs pretty well too. Like it's like I am extremely impressed by the tech on display.
It really bucks the trend of a lot of those games coming from Korea, where you see a trailer and then the game never comes out at all, or when it finally does, it looks nothing like what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah, like, no, they delivered on this in terms of the visuals for sure.
Yeah,
it's too bad so much of the visuals are devoted to the fact that most of the characters in this game are from late '90s softcore porn art.
Now the art is a different story. Like technically, this game is really good looking. Artistically, that's obviously your mileage is gonna vary there depending on your taste.
Yeah.
But the girl's outfit, Eve's outfit, is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my life. She has like a green tie.
Yeah, they kind of have a little formal look to it, and then I don't know what to say. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, no one's supposed to be looking at the outfit. You're supposed to be looking at her tits and ass.
Yeah.
Like the whole point is that.
And if that's the point, mission accomplished. This scene is so gratuitous right here.
Well, that's the only thing I've seen anybody actually talk about on Twitter. But it's like everyone's like, "Oh, it's a game of the year." I'm like, how come every shot for the game of the year is just a shot of her ass climbing a ladder and not the actual, gameplay?
Well, there's her outfit. She's got a weird necktie on. It's so bizarre.
Well, there's a lot of bondage signaling. In this
I guess.
And they're all everybody's wearing these ridiculous heels.
Yeah.
It's honestly embarrassing.
It kind of is.
Really,
I was glad
really
my
silly.
wife has been away for Easter. I was glad I played this while she was gone.
It makes me think of there was that little wave of Korean RPGs on the PS2, was it Mana Khemia? Or you remember what I'm talking about?
I remember what you're talking
about. A very yellow color scheme, and I think the main girl in that even had the little tie on too.
Yeah,
it seems to be a thing. But they all had giant asses, huge, thick asses, and that's basically what I'm getting from this.
Well, the asses in this are just shiny.
Shiny. I mean, it's pretty. I mean, she's scanned from the actual actress who plays
a real
her,
person. Yeah.
Which doesn't excuse what they're doing. I mean, I guess it's working because there's a certain audience that feels very served by this. The other thing the other thing I don't understand about this game is why there are no iframes in the dodges.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. There's a bunch of combat stuff in this game that baffle me. Absolutely baffle me. The fact that there's no iframes in the dodge, which is not the only game that do that this way, but it's that's why Dark Souls works.
Yes.
Is because
that's
the
iframes
in the roll.
Yeah.
The fact that several of the things that make the combat system function are locked behind skill tree stuff, and she starts with a third of one of the skill trees unlocked. Just
in this
not
demo, anyway.
No, this is the very beginning of the game.
You think this game will be that way?
I think so.
Yeah.
You can
Although I
upgrade
think
from
this actually does carry over to the final game, the save in this. For the demo.
I hope so, because I'd rather not play all this again.
Agreed. I don't want to fight a couple of the bosses again.
They start, there's a dodge thing that it gets automatically unlocked after you've already been fighting the enemies that use the ability
that you need
to use to dodge the. And I'm like, why are there no fucking iframes? I can't dodge this guy's attack. Turned out I had to go 2 rooms ahead, magically, unlock the thing, and now the dodge doesn't need iframes because when the guy flashes a blue attack, you just hit the button and she automatically does almost a cutscene around him, and you can stab him in the back automatically. And I'm like,
it was hard for me to pull that off. I couldn't get the timing of that one.
Oh, I thought that was the most automatic brain dead. I was insulted by that.
You mean the hold up and circle thing?
Yeah,
I can only get it to work half the time.
I thought that was insulting.
Really?
How easy that was. That was. The other thing I'll give you the other tip is the first thing you upgrade in this game when you get the skill points. Once it lets you, because it makes you upgrade. I think the first upgrade they make you pick a certain skill that is whatever.
Yeah.
But once you get the next time you get 2 more skill points, upgrade your parry to make it says makes it easier to parry or something. Mm-hmm. There you go. Now the combat works. Is you can do the parry whenever you want. You can get through the first boss just by parrying and countering if you really need to.
Yeah, I didn't find this game to be too difficult.
It's not super difficult. It's just not particularly interesting either. The other thing I don't understand why there's no cancel and a jump.
But there is cancel.
There's cancel and a
which I was surprised by.
I'm not, because it's standard for these games. You need that.
A lot of games don't have it though.
But not character action games. They always have that.
Yeah.
That's how that works. And so the fact that you can cancel and a block is normal.
Cancel to a block and parry, I thought was important.
But you have to, of course. Yeah. But you also should be able to cancel and a jump.
Yeah.
And you can't. And it's bizarre to me. The other thing I don't understand is. So the combos, combos are pretty simple early on. I assume that they open up because there's 2 more skill trees I think we haven't seen yet because they're not unlocked yet in the demo. but there's there's a light attack and there's heavy attack. You can do three light attacks and then combo into a heavy attack and I think another heavy attack. And then the other thing you can do is do 4 light attacks. That's another combo, but then you can't combo into a heavy attack from that.
Yep.
The recovery from the 4th light attack in the 4-hit combo is almost as long as the recovery from the heavy attack, but it hasn't stunned or knocked back the enemy, so you're almost always going to get hit. So I cannot figure out for the life of me why that 4-hit combo exists in the game.
Yeah.
It's that kind of shit. And maybe I'm just a fighting game nerd about that shit, but I don't understand why I'd ever use that 4th hit. Is that 4th hit just a trap in case I hit the button too many times? Is that a skill trap? I don't know what that is. I don't know what they're doing.
I don't think it went that far. I mean, I'll say this, Matt. Like, I didn't have a lot of problems with the combat in this. Like,
I didn't have problems with it. I just
boss,
don't understand the
kind
point
of challenging.
Of a bunch of it.
But I think what I was getting at is that they've kind of nerfed the game so that that stuff doesn't matter that much, which may piss off some people who are looking for that depth and that challenge. But as I was talking about earlier,
I assume that it gets more later.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we've just seen the very beginning here, and there's enough skill tree left that I'm like, well, there must be something in there, right? There, like for one thing, there's almost no aerial attacking in this.
Well, you can do the death from above,
right? So but that's it.
Do an assassination,
but there's no air combos. There's no air damage. There's no launching.
There's no juggling,
and that has to be in here. We've seen the videos.
No, you're right. They do show some juggling. You're right.
So that has to be what's in those other trees.
Yeah,
at least one of the trees must be air combo stuff or something, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I found this game to be entertaining, but also like offensive in some ways, like and embarrassing in some ways.
It's embarrassing. It's like something you wouldn't want your family watching you play.
Yeah, like I said, I was very happy that my wife was gone for Easter while I was playing this game because she definitely would have said something about it.
Well, and it's also sad because like I certainly have friends that that would be impressed by the visual like quality in this game, but I'm not going to show it to them because they'd be like, "Why the fuck is she dressed like that?"
Well, they're going to look at you like, "Why are you playing?
Why are you playing this?" I mean, and that's when I lean real hard and like, "Oh, I do a show and I have to play it about the."
Yeah. Oh, we should have mentioned the plot. So the plot.
I mean, look, if I didn't have to play it, I wouldn't. At this point. I mean, I'd probably play the demo to see what the fuss was about.
I enjoyed my time playing this.
I don't hate it. It's not. I mean,
I honestly thought this game was going to be like a 2 or 3 out of 10. I guess I thought it was going to be horrible.
I mean, here's one for the older school people. I thought this was going to be X Blades, and it turned out to be more Blades of Time.
Yeah, like I literally thought this was going to be like a 2 or 3 out of 10. It's better than that. Like I was honestly, I was pleasantly surprised by it. The plot. I mean, you start out, you're in this ship coming to Earth, and like you're attacked, and then you get in the pods that go down. Half your squad's wiped out. Basically, you're trying to save Earth from a plague.
I think you're returning to Earth after it's been taken over by a plague or lost for a long time.
The aliens or whatever.
And you're basically hot robot girls coming back to defeat the monsters that rule Earth now.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. Like it's that thing. It's like why are all the soldiers in this game hot women? And then you're rescued by this guy,
right?
Who does not seem to be military. He's like a tech dude.
Yeah. And he follows you in his little drone through the game.
Yeah. And everybody seems to know that all the women are the ones who fight, and their body frames, and they got to upgrade this thing, and we're all the same squad, and they're all just like they're all just like girls in these ridiculous 8-inch heels that are built into their own feet, and they're all getting massacred by these giant monsters that look like the most generic mutant things to come out of anything.
Again, the art in this is bad.
Yeah, the art is bad. The tech is great. The art is bad.
Yeah.
And one of the key options you can choose is a short ponytail or a long ponytail. And everyone online seems to be picking the short ponytail, so the long ponytail won't block her ass.
Well, there is an extra layer to the combat we didn't talk about, though, Matt. They're called the beta skills.
Yeah.
Basically, there's a gauge that you build up. Once it's full, you can essentially like cancel out enemy attacks. And so there's strategy in like choosing when to do that. And
eventually, there's a skill tree thing where you can eventually chain from one beta attack into the next beta attack, which is probably where the real key to doing the heavy damage comes in. Like I see the potential in there. It's just like, and like even if you leave aside the cheesecake nonsense and sort of all that shit, like. These are some of those boring enemies to fight against I've run into in a while. Yeah. Maybe not as boring as the same samurai 14 times.
Yeah, they're not as bad as Rise of the Ronin.
But in terms of kind of the horror, not the horror, but like the kind of the fantasy sci-fi hack and slash character action RPG stuff that's been coming around for the last however long. And it's just like you're fighting these nondescript. Can we just outlaw nondescript brown eyeless mutants from just games in general? Have we done this enough at this point? Like, look at that guy. That guy could be from any game in the last 10, 15 years. Like, in this game, it's also bizarre because, like, love or hate the fucking, like, don't you know porn is free on the internet now character designs of the good guys, like, it's at least like you can't mistake that character for anything else, right? Like, you're looking, she pops out of the screen not just because her ass is so huge, but because, like, you know, she looks different. She pops out, she's unique. You can tell her apart from all the other hot girl soldiers in the game. I can't, but the enemies aren't like that. No. The enemies are all sort of this nondescript brown mutant gray
alien
thing. And it's just like, it's weird that, like, that's one, you know, the one side is that, and the other side is, like, really identifiable. And this was fun too, where there's like, oh, I guess you gotta go across them. I'm like, do you want me to jump down there? Do you want me to? Is there something I'm missing? And then you have to push.
I feel like I jimmied this part.
Yeah,
of the game.
This is awful.
Like,
and I don't understand.
Is this how I was supposed to solve it?
That's how you're supposed to do it.
It
100%.
It felt like I was breaking the game.
It felt like you were doing something weird. Why can you stand? None of it makes any sense.
Well, I mean, you're seeing some of the traversal stuff. The traversal in this is not very good. Like, the jumping, the climbing, there's swimming in this too, which actually does feel good.
Swimming.
But the rest of the clamoring and stuff.
Swimming in Rise of the Ronin too.
Yeah, that's true.
You just never want to do it because it's going to kill you.
So there's a lot of different stuff in this. Like, now you're seeing there's these little camps that you can stop at, and that you can, like, that's where you adjust your skill points. There's a record player where you can play music. And the funny part about it is, like, these rest points are actually designed to rest. Like, you go there and you play music and you kick your feet up.
Well, you remember, like, they made a big point of that in the fucking promo material. It's like, you have a rest stop. You can sit in a beach chair. I'm just like, why are you telling me that there's a save point in this game? You have nothing else to talk about? And clearly they put a lot of effort into these places because it's actually a plot point in the game that there are, like recovery locations set up by her forces that before they were there somehow or something.
There's a lot of depth to the combat in this.
I'm like, who the fuck is bringing vending machines in an amphibious assault? Like, that's not a thing that anybody does.
What I found about this is kind of a little bit like also like Rise of the Ronin was there's, like, all these options in combat. Like, there's a system where if you, like, parry 3 attacks in a row or 4 attacks in a row, and, like, the enemy, like, shuts down. Like,
you get a reversal, like a triangle button, you get a really strong hit on them.
Yeah. And then there's like
they do have like a Sekiro style stamina thing with dots under them, and if you counter enough of them, you get a big hit on them.
There's stuff like that, but you don't need it. It's kind of like Rise of the Ronin. There's all this stuff there, but, like,
I assume later you will.
Maybe,
but
like,
in this
the one boss
you
at the end, like, you have to use the blink, for example. Like, I didn't really use it that much in combat, but against that boss in particular, it's very effective. And that's kind of how the way the game works. Like, you don't need to use all this stuff all the time. It's just, like, every once in a while.
Some
basically.
of them, like the enemies you were seeing in before with the big shield arm, like the big the block stuff, you need to use the blink for that.
Get behind them.
That's where you're taught how to do it. But you're not taught how to do it until you've fought like 2 of them.
No, you're right.
And you're just like, weird. I can't dodge this fucking blue attack. You're like, what is this? And I was like, oh, that would have been good to know ahead of time, because I'd been practicing to try to figure out the timing of it. I killed that thing like 17 times trying to figure out how to dodge the thing effectively, and it turned out I just didn't have the ability for it. What is this, Banjo-Tooie? Stop it.
Both Blink and Repulse are for very specific moments, like very specific attacks from the enemies. Otherwise, they don't really work all that well and aren't that effective. But then, the gameplay isn't mixed up that much. We talked about how there's, like, climbing and swimming, but for the most part, you're really just hacking and
really
slashing.
Feels like a high-tech PS2 game sometimes. And that doesn't mean necessarily bad, because like there were certainly action RPGs or like kind of action combat. It kept reminding me of Chaos Legion. Remember that game?
That's actually a great comparison. Actually,
like it's in the same
art even.
It's like in the same. It's in the same like ballpark as like Devil May Cry and kind of the equivalent things, but it's not quite doing enough to match those games. But it wants to, but also you're not sure what the fuck it's doing because it's so weird. And like it's got a bunch of ideas in it, but you're like, wait, am I supposed to do? It's like it's really hard to describe. I really do encourage everyone to play the demo because the demo will tell you whether it's for you or not.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you get to taste pretty much all the different elements of the game, and you'll have a good idea of whether you like the combat or not. You'll obviously know whether you enjoy the art and the look of the game. I'll say this: I was pleasantly surprised by it because I thought it was going to be really bad, and it's
not bad.
It's a competent video
It is competent.
game.
I do think, like, with all the talk of the inspirations and where it comes from, and you're talking about something that basically is, in I think in the minds of the developers and the creators, I think it's basically descended from Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, and Nier Automata, and it's honestly kind of insulting to compare it to any of those games.
Yeah, it's not as good. The gameplay is not as good
remotely.
as any of those. Yeah.
Like, the combat is probably the closest to Nier, but Nier makes it interesting by having, like, a fascinating world and a meta story to tell, and, like, really kind of, like, unfolds itself as you go, and this just is not that so far. Maybe it's got, like, a really, like, mind-bending twist laying ahead, but I somehow doubt it.
I'm intrigued by it. I am interested in playing the rest of it whenever it comes out to see what it does after this demo. The demo's about a little, 40 minutes, 50 minutes long.
About an hour long.
Yeah, roughly. But to Matt's point, definitely I recommend everybody download this, give it a try. I think it will let you know whether you're into it or not.
There's also QTEs in it, if that makes a difference to you.
Yeah.
Very minor.
Not very many,
but
though.
Like, they caught me off guard a couple times. Yeah. Like, oh, you want me to hit that? Like, okay.
Yeah. So I guess the demo was auspicious for me because I really had low expectations for this game.
I mean, it's definitely better than I thought, but, like, you got, like, I'll tell you what's going to happen here is it's going to come out and it's going to get, like, a Metacritic in the mid-70s. And
I bet it does higher than that.
I bet it's going to get Metacritic in the mid-70s.
Okay.
And everyone is going to lose their fucking minds that it didn't get 9s. Because
they think it's better than that.
Because it's got tits and ass in it. That's it. It's going to be the anti-woke champion video game. That's what it's going to... It already is that.
Yeah.
You're going to have all these fucking loud losers whining about how this is how games are supposed to be, and there's supposed to be escapism, and girls can be hot in escapism, and all I can say is if you have to escape from reality to have hot women to spend time with you, that's a you problem.
Yeah, that is a you problem. Yeah.
Skill issue.
Yeah. That's funny. So anyway, that's Stellar Blade. It is a PlayStation 5 exclusive. It is coming the 26th. Is that right?
That was the 23rd.
Is it?
I might be wrong.
My notes here. I thought I had it somewhere. Yeah, 26th.
What's
PS5.
on the 23rd?
I don't know.
Something comes out on the 23rd.
All the games this month are in the back half of the month. Like, we did Dossier. I think the first game in Dossier this month was like the 13th or something.
What are the big games this month other than this one?
Oh, there's no big games. This is the biggest one, for sure.
That's what I was thinking. This is the only notable release.
This is the real big one, for the month. So anyway, coming out April 26th, it is a PlayStation 5 exclusive, and as we said, you can go download the demo right now. Finding demos on PSN is kind of a pain in the butt. If you want to find it, search for Stellar Blade. When it comes to the game, when the page comes up, click on the ellipses, and it'll bring up a thing for the demo, and that's how you download it. And that's how you download all demos on PSN. Yeah. It's not the greatest system.
Also, if you scroll down far enough on the PSN tab, or whatever you want to call it, there is a demo row. And sometimes you can
They're not always there, though.
The one you're looking for, the newest ones are not always there for some reason. It's so, I mean... That's the that's the PlayStation interface since PlayStation 3.
It's so dumb.
It's garbage.
It
been
really
garbage
is bad.
for years and years and years.
Yep. Vincent says the 23rd is Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes.
That's what it was. Eiyuden Chronicles.
Tales of Kinsara's out.
Those are what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Because I'm actually looking forward to those games.
Well, we're going to talk about one of them here in a minute. So anyway, there you go. That's Stellar Blade, a PlayStation 5 exclusive. We'll be talking about it and have our final review of it here in just a couple weeks. Up next, we're going to talk about a multi-platform game in GameFace episode 382. It's a game called Sandland. We talked, was it last week or it had to be last week because I was sick with COVID the week before. We talked about how Akira Toriyama had passed away. He was a creator of Dragon Ball. He also created this little manga called Sandland like 2 decades ago, which never managed to really kind of catch on with the rest of pop culture like a lot of the other stuff.
Nothing else has ever, you can't
compare it to Dragon Ball.
Like saying George Lucas doesn't create anything as big as Star Wars. Like, yeah, no shit.
Touche. Yep. But anyway, he created this other manga called Sandland back like 20 years ago. Never was a thing, at least as far as video games are concerned. It ran quite a while as a manga. But one of the final things that he did before he passed away was get this product into the video game pipeline with Bandai Namco. And the sad part is the game's coming out here very soon, and he won't get to see the game released. But much like Stellar Blade, there's a demo live right now on pretty much every platform for this game. It is an open world. they call it an action RPG. It really skirts along the line of action adventure and action RPG. Like the skill trees in this aren't very big, but it is an open world game. It seems like it's all set in the desert because the whole plot is like you're in this desert wasteland. Water has become the most valuable commodity in the world, and basically your task in this game is to try to find this legendary water spring that you can then tap into and basically save all of your society because everybody is living in a desert with no water. And that's kind of like the major setup for the game. The weird thing about this game, though, is that like most of it is driven by vehicles. So you can be on foot if you want to, and there are combos and there's melee combat and spells that you can cast and all that kind of stuff. But the bulk of the combat in this game takes place in vehicles. And there's like a quick like select screen in this set up just for it, so you can quickly swap to whatever vehicle you want. This demo only had 3 of the vehicles in it, and there are a lot more. As you play through the game and go through the open world, there's these 2 dudes that follow you around in a golf cart. It's very strange. And they act as like co-op partners. They'll like buff you and give you like increases in your abilities and things like that, or give you special abilities. I have not yet seen any point where they actively engage themselves into the combat, so I don't know if that eventually happens as you play. But you'll see in this trailer here that we're showing right now that it isn't all set in the sand. Eventually they do get to like lush like environments that have trees and all the other kind of stuff. This early section does appear to be just that, just an early section of the game. It also is the setting for the demo, I would add, though. So in the demo, I said there's only 3 vehicles. There's a tank, there's a mech, which they call battle armor, and then there's like a motorcycle sort of styled vehicle that you can use to get around. And obviously it's the fastest way to get around the environment. The mech has like really good melee punching mechanics and can deal huge damage with its fists. It also has like a machine gun. The tank that you use has a variety of different weapons, and every vehicle has a special. So the tank has this awesome, and you'll see it here in the B-roll in a minute, has this awesome like volley that it fires of missiles that automatically lock on and take down a bunch of different enemies. The motorcycle has like a little drone that pops up that will shoot alongside you. And obviously it can't take as much damage as a tank can. And then, as I said, the mech has really great melee stuff. It also has a really awesome like shoulder cannon that you can use as well. So the vehicles are versatile and can be used in a variety of situations. The most important thing, though, is that a big part of the game is building up your vehicle. So there's a garage. Eventually you get like a hub that you can build. And the crazy part about this is this is also like a city builder, Matt. Like, not just like you build this little hamlet or whatever. You literally build like a city. It's a little bit like a Dark Cloud. You remember that RPG for PS2? In that while you're playing this RPG, you're gathering resources and things that you take back to your base, and you can build up this massive city that basically you can go back to and refill your health and things like that. There's also a garage there that's run by this girl, Anne, and she will help you build brand new vehicles, will help you upgrade your existing vehicles. Even in this demo, there are tons and tons of vehicle parts for your vehicle. So if you download the demo and play it, go and look at all the parts that are already in this, and like you can completely change how pretty much every vehicle in the game plays, which I thought was pretty cool and not something that you get in a lot of games. I mean, let's be honest, there aren't a whole lot of open world games where the focus is on vehicles in the first place. As I said, you can also fight with your fists. You can cast magic spells. Your lead character also does like crazy like wrestling moves, like spinning suplexes and pile drivers and things like that. There's a light attack and there's a heavy attack, and you can chain them both in the air and the ground. This game does have juggles and things like that. You can also dodge in 4 different directions, but this game is not like a Dark Souls-like, where any enemy that you come across can totally kill you. It's a pretty mellow experience overall. What else is there? As I said, everyone in your party has a very small skill tree. Again, Bandai Namco is calling this an action RPG. That stuff is very slight. Like, the skill trees in this are not very big. And then there's some gameplay variety eventually. Like, you build vehicles and you can, like, test them in races. There's bounty hunts. There's battle arenas that you can eventually find inside the game. As I said, water is the most important thing in this game's world. So when you go back to your base, you can drink some water and replenish it. It is, again, the most valuable resource that you're going to find in the game. If you die, you go back to your camp, and you can just replenish on the water there, and then jump in any vehicle. As I said, there's a quick select for the vehicles in this, a radio menu that you can, and you saw it in some of the B-roll earlier, that you can select at any time to choose whatever vehicle you want. I think eventually you will be able to have 8 at a time at your beck and call, but in the demo there were only 3. Here's some of the parts I was talking about. In the B-roll, you can see like a big part of the game is building up these vehicles and turning them into killing machines. As I said, their skill trees are not very big, and everybody in your party has a small skill tree as well. And as I said, they act as like support when you're out in the field. So you can also improve their abilities. So you improve their abilities to help you out in the field as well, although you never take active control over any of the people that are in your party in the game. So anyway, as I said, they do mix up the gameplay a little bit. There's racing, there's these bounty hunts, there's battle arenas you can do, but really the vast majority of this game is just going out into the open world, driving around with your vehicles. The demo doesn't have waypoints or like mission objectives, so you just kind of cruise around. Like I ended up finding a couple different bosses to fight and things like that. There is, I wouldn't call it emergent in the style of like Dragon's Dogma 2, where like crazy stuff just happens, but you do stumble across just random stuff out in the wasteland that you can interact with and do different stuff with. So this is another game that I had really low expectations for. Everything I'd seen around this game was not encouraging. In fact, some of the previews that had come out for this like a couple weeks ago were very discouraging. And so I expected hardly anything from this. And look, so far what I've played of this, it's not great, but it's also not terrible.
It's certainly unique.
Yeah, there's no other game like it. Like I don't even think of an open world game that's like vehicle driven like this one is.
Mad Max. But that was
yeah, I totally forgot about that one.
Years ago.
Yeah, I guess that was like a decade ago now. This game is coming to everything. And Rigor Mortis says the visuals are pretty nice. Again, total art style, all from Akira Toriyama. Like you can see it; it's clear as day. He has his own art style. It really is a shame that he won't get to see this like come to fruition after 20 years of the manga being out there. Him finally getting somebody to work on it with him, and him getting it up and going, and so close to it releasing, but he just didn't make it. So it's really a shame. It will be interesting to see how people evaluate this game if they can leave their emotions out of it. Because it'll be hard to pan this game.
Oh, I won't have a problem.
I mean, we won't. We're GameFace. Like, we're brutally honest.
I don't actually like Akira Toriyama's art very much.
Well, I'll say one thing, Matt. It's very distinctive. Like, as soon as you see it, you know.
You always know it when you see it.
Yeah, for sure. And whether you like it or not, that's, again, a matter of taste. But, I was pleasantly surprised by this game. It had a lot more depth than I thought it was going to have. Again, I think calling it an action RPG is a little bit of a stretch, but it does have RPG elements in it. It really is more about the vehicles, building out the vehicles, creating vehicles based upon the objectives that the game gives you. Because again, as you saw in some of the B-roll there, you can really turn these vehicles into almost anything that you want that will work on almost anything. So here's some emergent stuff. Like here, I was just driving around. Oh, look, there's a gigantic scorpion. It just turns into a boss fight that happens out in the middle of nowhere. Like there's another part where I came across like this radio tower, and a bunch of robots that were under the tower started coming and attacking me, and literally they wiped me out with like these crazy laser beams in like 2 seconds. So there is a little bit of like, oh, I just stumbled across this thing that's happening out in the open world in this game. And again, it is very unique. You're not going to find another action RPG that's all driven by vehicles. At least they aren't very prevalent anymore. So again, much like Stellar Blade, I was pleasantly surprised by this game. Again, it is coming to every platform, even Switch. And this game also comes out on the same day as Stellar Blade. It comes out on the 26th. Obviously, a completely different flavor. The other thing I would say, too, is that this game, I think kids probably will be able to handle this. Like, I think this is probably a good, like, my first open world game for kids. So far, the content in it, I haven't seen anything that I would be like, I wouldn't want my kid to see that. But it's also very simple, but it also has
I don't know, that mech is clearly naked.
But it also has, like, the building stuff that the kids love. Like, you can build your vehicles. You also construct this crazy city that you build literally from, like, a hamlet. So I have an idea that kids probably will like this. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this IP if, like, eventually there's a kid's cartoon that comes out in the U.S. because of this. Sometimes that synergy happens. Sometimes it doesn't. But I enjoyed my time with this. I'll say this. The demo for this is not great. And I think, honestly, Matt, it might have been a mistake to put this demo out. Because if you watch, like, the trailers and see what this game really is, and then read up on stuff that Bandai Namco has put out as far as PR is concerned and learn what the game is, and then you play that demo, it is like night and day. It's like two different things there. So I don't know if putting out the demo was all that good of an idea as far as helping the game's prospects, but I'll say this, in the end, I did enjoy it more than I thought I would. Do you have any questions or comments about this, Matt?
Not really.
No? Let's check chat and see if they're saying anything about it. I think a lot of people just have probably... Oh, Rigor Morris UK says, if my 6-year-old daughter finished Pikmin 4 and all level 5 Dandori challenges, I assume she would have no problem with this. No, not at all. This is child's play, literally, compared to the stuff that she's already played through. So yeah, you're totally fine. I think she will like this game. And this, unlike some other games, like Princess Peach I talked about last week, I didn't think that adults would enjoy playing it with kids. I do think you might enjoy playing this with the younger ones in your family if you sat down. I think there's enough depth, there's enough layers to the combat that older players can get at least something, glean something out of this game as they sit down and play it with the younger ones in the family. So there you go. That is Sandland. It is coming to everything on April 26th. With that, it's time to get on to our sneaker of the week for GameFace episode 382. But before we do that, here's a word from our sponsor, New York Sneaker Society. What's up, everyone? Shane here, and one thing you may not realize about me is that I am a total sneakerhead. That's right. I've been collecting Nike sneakers since the early 90s. My favorites are Air Max 95 and Air Max 97. Now, one thing that's different about me from your typical sneakerhead is that I actually wear the sneakers. And because of that, they can get dirty. And that is where New York Sneaker Society comes in. Using their advanced shoe cleaning products, I turned an old pair of Nikes that looked like this into this. With their cleaning products, your sneaker life can go from a year to 5 or more. I know that. I have shoes that are like 30 years old that I still wear because I've cleaned them. You can also lower your carbon footprint, by keeping your kicks looking fresh. For my daily drivers, I also appreciate New York Sneaker Society's Refresh Spray to keep them smelling great and staying crisp. Head to nysneakersociety.co/sifted to clean your shoes like a pro at home and get 10% off your order. That's right, that's nysneakersociety.co/sifted for 10% off. So now, I got the big kit from New York Sneaker Society, and now I've gone back and I have cleaned up all my shoes. Every last pair of shoes that I had in my closet, I've revived them, and now I can wear them again. And one thing that I've found now that I've really restored all my shoes, the thing that I use the most are these sneaker wipes. And they come in this little box, and they're just this container of these wipes that you can pull out. And what I do, and I'll pull my shoe off just to show you. So this shoe in particular, it has like black sole, but then it has like the tan on the bottom. Well, that tan section here, get it on camera, this tan section here, it gets really dirty and dusty. And there's these wipes, you can just pull the wipe out, and all I do is just wipe the tan, and they look brand new. And it takes like a couple minutes to do. Again, as I've had these kits, I've started to discover stuff that I use more as I've gone back and really cleaned through my shoes. So make sure you use the URL nysneakersociety.co/sifted. It's very important that you use that URL, because if you do, you will get 15% off your entire order. The big kits that they sent me to try out, they're amazing. I literally revived like 15 pairs of shoes, not exaggerating. I've got 15 new pairs of shoes that I will wear now, but still have all that other stuff. But you can buy the smaller kits that just really have the essentials in it for like $15. And if you use that 15% off, you can get it pretty cheap, and then you can roll to school just like I am with all my old pairs of shoes like they're brand new again. So again, go to nysneakersociety.co/sifted, order yourself some shoe cleaning stuff, and get 15% off. And as a big part of this, we have our sneaker of the week, where we find a game that kind of was bubbling up on the website through the last week. And I will admit, I had to dig a little deep this week. It was kind of a slow week, but my pick for the sneaker of the week is Visions of Mana. It is the next in the Mana line from the Square Enix RPG franchise. Have you been a Mana fan in the past, Matt?
I like them. I
Yeah.
mean, they haven't really been very prevalent.
Yeah, I mean,
recently.
it's been like 10 years or something since the last one, maybe longer.
But I like the Super Nintendo ones.
The thing about this franchise is it was one of the first action RPGs. And a lot of JRPGs were still turn-based. This is one of the first ones that went to a more action-based combat. Now,
well, the more the more significant thing at the time was that you could play multiplayer.
That's true. Yeah,
it was like couch co-op action RPG.
Yeah,
which was not really a thing at the time.
Yeah. Yep. And this is also an action RPG. It's not a turn-based RPG. But there was a ton. Like, Square Enix sent out a bunch of preview code. They didn't send it to us, but they sent out a bunch of preview code the last week. And so there's a big round of previews that went around for this. And I'll say this, Matt. They were extremely positive. Mm-hmm. Like, almost every publication was kind of gushing over this game. And, like, they put out a bunch of new footage for the game to run with those previews. I'll be honest, some of the footage I looked at, I was like, really? You really thought this game was... The combat looks slow in this game for some reason. It just looks like it's... I don't know. I could be wrong. There's games I've watched before, and then I play them, and I'm like, oh, this actually feels great. But I thought the combat looked a little bit disconnected. But as far as games that this week that were at a certain level of anticipation and excitement that went up a couple notches, there's no doubt that the winner this week is Visions of Mana. This game is coming to PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series, although it looks like it could easily run on just about anything. But those are the 3 platforms that it's coming to. And it is also coming pretty soon, so you don't have to wait too much longer. But it is our sneaker of the week for GameFace, episode 382.
When is that coming?
Like next month, I think. It's still a little ways away, but not too far. And you'll probably...
on my team.
It's on your team?
Yeah.
Was it on the team or an alternate?
It's on my team.
Well, that's good.
6 or 7.
The previews were very encouraging.
Yeah,
so,
I figured it would go well.
Yeah, so it's looking pretty good. So if you have that on your team, you probably got it late, and it's probably going to pay off for you. And then our last topic for episode 382, we're going to talk about another JRPG. This one is called Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. The reason I asked you why it was 100 Hero or Heroes was because I was actually confused on whether it was Eiyuden Chronicle or Eiyuden Chronicles.
Yes, one Chronicle, 100 Heroes.
Heroes, yeah. And Matt, you actually got to play this because you were a backer. I haven't got to play this at all. The other thing, too, is that we don't have B-roll from the demo because there's none out there.
And you asked everybody not to.
And they followed it.
Yeah.
There is no footage of that demo on YouTube, man. That's crazy.
Suikoden fans don't snitch.
Isn't that crazy? So all I could do is just stitch together some trailers that they put out so far. So you're going to have to watch that while Matt discusses it. But Matt is a backer of the game. He actually got early access to it, and now it's going to pay off for all of you. So Matt, what's up with Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes?
So this is a Kickstarter from I think 4 years ago.
Yeah.
It was basically the team that made Suikoden coming back to make Suikoden again.
Yeah.
And,
because Konami won't.
Yeah. And so the upshot. So this is not the beta. It was a backer beta, they called it. It's basically about a first 5 hours of game.
That's cool.
Unfortunately, I don't think the save's going to transfer because they are making some changes and upgrades. They took a lot of feedback, and there's going to be some fixes. I think it's going to be a little easier when it comes out, which is too bad.
So was it challenging? It
was somewhat hard. Like early on, especially so this first fight here, where you fight these rabbit warriors, they all attacked the main guy, who's Noah, the guy with the 2 swords in the bottom right corner, and they killed him in the first turn. Like it was just like bomb, 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 and he died. So I just reloaded the save. I'm like, well, fuck you.
Okay.
That didn't really happen again. But like we're talking about like a hit from from an enemy, like until you've like leveled up and gotten further in. Early on, it can take a third of your life off.
Wow.
Life of a character off, and you don't have a lot of healing opportunities.
Dang.
So you better be on the ball. You better be on the ball with your Suikoden like team balance work.
So how does that work? How does the team balance work in it?
Well, you can have 6 people at once. 3 in the front, 3 in the back. The 3 in the back are protected from melee attacks, but they can still be hit by magic or ranged.
Can they cast magic?
They can cast magic and they can attack.
Oh.
Like they can attack normally. Usually you want to put magic and ranged people back there, but like you can see, Noah's back there with his 2 swords.
Yeah.
They can only, so they can hit anywhere if they're ranged or magic, but someone in the back can only hit the front row.
Okay.
Even if like
so there's a distance element to it.
Yeah, a little bit of distance element there. It's not super important, but like basically you do want to put your squishier characters in the back.
Yep.
Like by the end of the demo, by the end of the game, I had a crossbowman, a healing mage, and an offensive mage in the back, and I had double sword dude and Noah, and I had the girl who does martial arts kung fu stuff who can stun people, and I had one other who I can't. Oh, the wolf guy. That was my front row.
What's the plot of the game?
And then you can also have you don't know. I didn't get to it. It wasn't available here, but there are characters that do not function as frontline combat, but they can be in support slots. I think you have 3 support slots. So support characters can go back and they will basically, they're kind of like the assist characters in a Marvel versus Capcom game. You can call them in to do whatever their ability is to help you out during the fight.
What's the plot?
The plot is that there are it's very Suikoden. Like, it is Suikoden in all but name.
Okay.
There are 2 nations. There is the guys in the blue coats. They are one nation, and the kind of more Asian style, like the main guy with the red coat, he's the other. They're the other nation. Okay. And they've been at war for the shark people. Can't argue with shark people. Animal people.
They can't see you while they talk to you, though.
Animal people, which is a big thing in Suikoden. There's always been the ducks and things like that. Hello. And so basically, they were at war. They've been in hostilities for a long time, and now they are not. And it opens with you. You're part of a town watch on this fairly small village, and but you're near a dig site. And if you've played the action RPG they put out of this from like a year or 2 ago,
Eiyuden Chronicle Rising or something?
Something like that. Yeah. There's a big emphasis in this world on digging into ancient ruins and finding what are called lenses, including they keep calling it the Grand Lens in this, but you can hear them call it in Japanese. You can hear them call it the Mother Lens.
Okay.
Which are like mother lode. It's a mother lode pun, I think, is what they're after. So you're looking for these magic lenses, which are essentially like runes from Suikoden.
Okay.
Except there are also runes in this game that everybody uses to cast magic. So instead of because in Suikoden everybody had runes to cast magic, and then there were 13 true runes, and like usually the main characters of a Suikoden game could use true runes that have to be like, it's like a chosen one kind of thing. So in this, the mother lenses or the ancient lenses are sort of the true
chosen ones
equivalent, and you're going to try to find one, and it's a joint operation between your watch group and the military people of the previously rival country in your territory. And so you're going with them to kind of guide them because you know the area better, and the person who found the thing got lost in the woods and doesn't know where it is. So you go in and you get stuck in the dungeon basically with these guys. And the funny thing, so the 2 main characters, Suikoden often has like 2 main characters that have sort of a relationship that they have to deal with over the course of the thing, and they tend to end up on opposite sides of the war. So, here we go. So it's the guy with the 2 swords and the guy with the blonde kid with the blue coat, who's Shine. The whole first dungeon is both the tutorial and kind of their meet cute. Like, there's some heavy gay undertones to this game. Like they are... I don't know another way to read this. Like, to the point, like they nothing romantic happens. Not, nobody kisses or anything. Yeah. But like, they really like each other more than the average friends. 2 dudes hitting it off, dude. And later on, they run into each other again when like basically war starts to break out because there's a bunch of political machinations. There's a whole side thing with other characters that clearly join you later because there's a thing much like Suikoden. There's a thing where like, oh, that character has enough care taken in their design and has a character portrait, so you're going to join my team later. I get it.
That's funny.
But like, and this stuff isn't in the demo. Like these fights are, classically Suikoden has kind of like paper, rock, scissors, big battles. Yep. That was not in the demo yet.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot. This game is huge. You don't even get to the point where you have your own castle because like one of the staples
big
of Suikoden is you get to build your home base. Yeah. You don't even get the home base yet.
Oh wow! In the first 5 hours.
This game's huge.
Wow.
This game's epic. Beyblades. I only just got the fishing pole by the end of the demo. I mean, there's a lot happening here.
It looks like there's a lot of tertiary content.
Yeah. And you end up basically at this area where you get you go back to his home village, and because it's a JRPG, that home village is dead.
It's burned to the ground.
So it gets attacked by Empire, some forces you don't really recognize, like assassins or something. They burn the whole place down, apparently looking for you, which is surprising. And the Shine, I think that's his name, the blue coat, blonde-haired guy, the flaxen-haired boy, as they call him a few times.
Yeah.
He shows up, is also there because his team is archaeological. They're looking for ruins. They happen to be in the area, and they go and you meet up again, and they're like, oh my god, oh wow, and so he helps you get away, and your team get away, and then his second in command's like, I'm glad to meet you, Noah. He talks about you all the time. It's good to put a face to the name. And then they see you leave. Okay, cool. And like you're like a little in joke that came up in the first dungeon, and Noah's like, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go meddle and cause some good trouble and stuff. And he's like, all right, go. And like Shine is like, I'm afraid that next time we meet we'll be on opposite sides of the battlefield. And he's like, hey, if we both follow our hearts, we'll never be on opposite sides of the battlefield. And runs off. And the second in command is just like, I can see why you hit it off. He could, I think he's good for you. You could use a friend like him. And then Shine goes, a friend. And I'm like, I don't know another way to read that. This is a love story, people. I'm sorry. That's what this is.
We'll see how it goes. These games are like 80 hours long. It could go anywhere.
But it's clear. But it reminds me of Suikoden 2 with Joey and the main character, and they end up on opposite sides of the war, and that becomes the tragedy of that. Because I assume that's what's going to happen here to some degree, until eventually you. Because there's also there's even a character who's like a big like from the enemy, the militaristic nation side, and he's like a big colonel general guy, and he's involved in the negotiations, but everyone thinks he's the one who's causing the problems and accidentally is stabbing everybody in the back, and he's literally Luca Blight from Suikoden 2. Like it's like, okay, you're following the formula here, but I love the formula, so it's kind of okay.
Yeah.
And you can go around and start gathering people, and like you see a guy who looks like he has an interesting character design, you can talk to them, and he's probably going to have a little join quest for you, and they join up with you.
It is funny how you can tell by the character designs how involved the characters are going to be.
And it's very good. So basically, it's basically a PS1 RPG, but what if it had modern tech? And it's great.
Yeah,
it's great. It's exactly what I wanted.
Wow.
When I backed this thing 4 years ago, and I said I want the Suikoden guys to make a modern version of Suikoden 2, that is exactly what they did.
Wow.
It is. I have no notes so far.
Now, other than the formation stuff, are there any wrinkles to the combat?
Yeah, everybody's got their weaknesses and stuff, and you got to kind of prioritize who's going to attack what, because those magic guys are more dangerous because they can hit your back row or they can hit everybody. There's group spells. The boss fights tend to have what are literally called gimmicks. So some fights, big fights, will have what are called gimmicks, and you can do the gimmick action instead. So there's one fight where there's this thing that keeps popping up out of the sand. It's this magic thing, and on either side of the fight, either left and right, there are these magic books that one of your mages has set up, and you can, instead of attacking or doing something else during that turn, you can send one of your characters to activate the spell book. And if you pick the right side, this giant mallet comes down and whacks the thing on its head and has a good chance of stunning it so it can't attack you. Otherwise, it gets 2 attacks around.
Oh, okay.
So you want to try to guess right and figure that out, because then you're going to buy yourself some time, because the boss fights take a while. They're not easy. There's another fight.
Most turn-based JRPGs, that's the way it is.
There's another fight with a bunch of guys, and so it's there's a main guy who can throw bombs that hit everybody. 2 bomb hits and most of your characters are dead. And there's a guy in the back healing him, and there's a guy with a shield who will automatically jump in front of the other guy to block him. So you basically got to kill these guys, and then in the middle of the fight, once you kill one of them, he will move over and he activates this lever that'll drop debris on you, but there's a lever for the crane that's dropping it, and if you time it right, you can hit the lever instead of your action for one of your characters and move the crane over and drop the debris on them. So it's that kind of stuff.
Oh, interesting.
It's not I've gotten party wiped a few times.
Yeah.
It's not a pushover. But if you're a veteran of these things, you will know what to do.
Yeah.
Is kind of the way I'd say.
Do you think that's the right way to approach it?
You can't just hammer the X button. And there are auto battle options.
Oh, really?
You can program everybody to fight a certain way, almost like the Gambit system from 12, and auto battle something if you know the fight is not really worth you going all the way through.
Yeah.
But you're not going to want to do that on boss fights because they're a little more complex. And Suikoden had those too. Suikoden had auto battle as well.
What's the deal with the 100 heroes? What's that about?
It's because it's like Suikoden. In Suikoden, you collected the 108 Stars of Destiny, because 108 different characters for your team, and there's going to be 100 characters on this, I assume.
Yeah.
And then
you have to collect. Don't you have to build an army of 100?
Yeah, you build a whole army.
Yeah.
It's Suikoden. Every Suikoden is that.
Yeah, a lot of people, Matt, that are watching this, listening to this, have never played Suikoden.
Well, if those fucking remasters would come out, that might be different.
I'm just saying, it's been gone for so long, and. Yeah.
I would imagine most people watching this show know what Suikoden is.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about all, but
maybe not Sneaky, but everybody else knows what Suikoden is.
Because he has like a 20-year period
Yeah.
that's just blacked out.
If you don't know what Suikoden is, go play Suikoden 2. It's one of the best games ever made.
Yeah, it really is that good.
Or wait for this fucking remaster that's supposed to be out last year. Like,
Yeah.
if that ever comes out, go ahead and play that, because Suikoden 2 is still one of the greatest things ever made.
So how you feeling about this?
It's great.
Seems like you're pretty
It's great.
excited for it.
It works really well. The challenge is solid, but not frustrating. There's a lot of, you can see kind of the stuff opening up right as it ends, and you're like, oh, like,
Yeah.
It's the story's interesting. The towns are cool. Like the look is good. Like everybody,
I like the look of the game.
It's
for
got
sure.
like kind of that HD 3D look that, like, Octopath Traveler kind of has.
It
but
also
more,
has that animation where it's like
it's a little more colorful.
it could use like one more frame, or could it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just enough to leave your imagination there.
Yeah, it's a cool looking game for sure. It also has like a lot of 3D polygonal stuff in the game.
Yeah, all
It
the
mixes the 2D
environments
and
are all 3D and polygonal. The
Yeah.
characters are 2D sprites.
Yeah, and it's
it
interesting
works.
how in this game it works. And there's a couple other Square Enix games where it works really well, but not always. But it does seem to work really well here. This game comes out on the 23rd.
Yeah.
And it is coming to everything, including Switch.
Yeah, I imagine phones could run this. It's
Yeah.
not- it's not
What platform did you play it on?
PC.
Yeah.
I have the backing thing is coming in for. I have a PC copy and a PlayStation copy. I will probably play the final game on PlayStation, because that's where I played Rising, and that imports save stuff to change, like, your progress in building up the village in that will actually impact how the village is portrayed in the main game, I believe. I think that's the idea. Or that was the original idea. I don't know if that actually happened.
So did you play that on PC as well?
No, I
played it.
I play. That's what I'm saying. I played it on PS5 because that's where I played Rising.
I gotcha.
So my completed save on
So-
Rising is there.
So you're gonna play the final game on PS5. Is
Yeah.
what you're saying? Okay, and I probably will as well. So there you go. That's Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. Any word on how much it's gonna cost yet?
I think it's full. I think it's 60.
Oh yeah. You think that's gonna be worth it for?
I'll pay it.
Yeah.
I mean, I
People
paid,
like
I
us
already
will.
paid it. I paid it 4 years ago.
You did, yeah. You've been waiting for that investment to pay off for a while. But that is Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. I mean, the other thing about this game, this is like the...
Vincent says it's on Game Pass.
Oh, it
So
is.
there you go.
This is like the dead developer or the dead person episode, because also the guy who's working on this game
Yeah, one of the key guys
has
here-
passed
here
away,
a
and
few
he's
weeks
not
ago.
going to see this game released. What an interesting coincidence that two games ended up on the same episode in the same boat.
I mean, that generation is getting up there.
I mean, we're getting to the point, Matt, where our heroes are starting to die. Like, I wake up in cold sweats at night worrying about Miyamoto. I'm like, oh my god, even though he doesn't really make games anymore, like, I don't know. It's like, I feel like all this is coming, Matt. Like, all our heroes are getting to that age. Like, they're always a little older than us because we were the kids and they were the adults, and now we're getting up there and they're getting way up there. So, yeah, starting to see some of our heroes fade away here, which is a little sobering.
I mean, Toriyama was way too young for that. He wasn't old, really.
Yeah, he wasn't
Not
that
by
old.
modern standards.
Yeah, 68 or whatever.
Yeah.
Modern science, you should not die that young. So there you go. That's Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes coming to everything on April 23rd. We'll be talking about that, giving it its final review here in just a couple weeks on
Even
GameFace.
it is fully voiced.
Every character's voiced?
All the main characters are.
Okay.
If the game stops to do like a cutscene of any kind, all the text is voiced.
Okay.
I played it in Japanese. I don't know how the English voice acting is.
Okay. There you go. Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. And next up, it's time for... That's right, it's time for Name That Game Tune, brought to you by SoundWizardry.com. If you need any audio work done, whether you're working on a game, whether you're working on a YouTube video, whether you're working on anything where you need audio, go to SoundWizardry.com. They are great dudes, and they are really skilled. They worked on several of the Game of the Year candidates from last year. Last time I tried to reach out to them, they were on location working on a game, which I found to be interesting. That they're bringing Sound Wizardry out to work on games on location, which is really cool. They're great people. They're very skilled. Any kind of audio work you need done, go to soundwizardry.com.
I also forgot to note last week when we were talking about Outcast: A New Beginning that the music mixing in that game is one of the weirdest things I have ever heard, because the music will just pop in for whatever's happening in the game at full blast.
Oh, yeah.
And then after the fight or the scene or the whatever's over, it will just stop.
Nah, yeah, I remember.
Could have used some sound wizardry.
Lots of games
Yeah.
are like that, man. A lot of Japanese games are like that, where the audio, like, again, I turn off the music a lot. A lot of games use music to hide horrible sound design. Like, I'll say this, though, like, Rise of the Ronin sound design, really freaking good. Like, I turned down the music in that, and that game's alive. Voiceover's terrible, but the actual, like, Foley work and stuff, really good in that game. We don't talk about that stuff enough, I feel like, but I also feel like we live in, like, a soundbar age, where most people aren't like me, and they don't have, like, the 5.1 or the 7.1. It feels like most people now are just happy with having, like, a Bluetooth soundbar underneath their TV and not getting the whole surround sound experience.
What the surround stuff costs, I can't really blame
I don't blame them either. And so that's why I don't talk about it a ton, because I know a lot of you guys don't have setups like I have. Every once in a while, if I play something where it's really impactful or I really notice it, then I'll bring it up, but usually I don't. So, but anyway, soundwizardry.com, they're the people who make that stuff sing. Go to soundwizardry.com if you have any audio needs. The other cool thing about Sound Wizardry is that they are supplying the prizes for Name That Game tunes. So if you win this game, you get a free PC game. Now that's important, because if you do not play PC games, or you don't have a friend who plays PC games, just don't play. Let somebody win the code that's actually going to use the code to play it. And again, I'm totally fine if you win it and you want to give it to a friend or your brother or anybody else that's going to use the code. It's yours to do whatever you want with it. Just make sure that either you're going to play it or somebody else is. A couple other things before we get going. If you have won this year already, do not play. You can only win once every calendar year, and that's it. And then the final part of it is that the chat goes into slow mode, which means that you can only put in one chat every 60 seconds. So don't just spam the chat with a bunch of random game titles trying to guess the name of the game. You're going to fail because of that. So make sure you pick your spots to chat and make your guesses. So here's how it works. I have 5 audio samples from a video game. You just try to guess the name of the game before Matt does. Matt has won recently. I think you're a little bit better at this than you were even at the visual one. So you guys got to be on your toes and pay attention. So let's get everything set up here for Name That Game. Matt's got the headphones. He's ready to go. Let me turn up the volume on your headphones, Matt, to make sure you can hear everything. Can you hear okay right now?
Yeah.
Those levels okay?
A little more.
A little more? Is that good?
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Matt's ready. Are you guys ready for Name That Game? Here comes the first sample. In 3, 2, 1. All right, let's see if we have any guesses.
That sounds like Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing New Leaf.
No. Monkey Island, no. Animal Crossing, no. Final Fantasy 16, no. Now remember, people, you can't just guess.
New Horizons?
Yep, we have a winner. Ashes in the Hourglass. It is Animal Crossing New Horizons. Wow, we didn't make it too far on that one. You guys got it fast. Good job. Wow. The crazy part was I had an even more obvious first one than that one. And I moved it out.
And something about that guitar sound quality that's Animal Crossing.
Yeah. Well, you knew it.
I knew, I just didn't
know which one. Yeah. Here's all the work that I did for nothing, because you guys got it on the first one. Here's the second one. Here's the third one.
I didn't hear anything.
Oh, really?
There's no sound.
Really?
Well, there's no sound.
Oh, I turned down your headphones already. Yeah. Here's the fourth one. And here's the fifth one. Slagathor is saying, even I knew it was Animal Crossing, and I've never played that twee bullcrap. I mean, I don't think it's twee bullcrap. I'm not a huge Animal Crossing fan, but I can understand why other people like it.
I always say it. I play it until I have a complete fossil collection, and then I just stop. I don't even mean to. That's just the end of my interest in that game. As soon as I have all the dinosaurs, I'm done.
Well, I guess I made a mistake with that one. I did not do a good job. I like for it to at least get to the third sample, so that's my mistake. But anyway, get at me to get your free game. You can send me a DM here on Twitch. You can send me a DM on Sifted, where I'm at Shane. You can send me a DM on Twitter, where I'm at Dinfire. You can send Sifted a DM on Twitter, at Sifted Games. Get to me in any of those ways, and we'll get your free code out to you. Congratulations once again for getting it on the first sample. Damn it! screwed that one up. I did wonder before I sat down, like, so many people have not just played Animal Crossing, they have spent so much time with Animal Crossing. It's like, I played
there are probably people who could identify it from the footsteps.
You're probably right.
You just put like the sound of the running.
That first one, the first sample did have footsteps in it.
Yeah, and I heard that, and I heard the ding of selection of something.
Yeah. Yep.
It's hard with a game where people are going to have played it hundreds of hours, and just every sound will be ingrained in there.
Well, it's also tough for me because it's like, I don't want to pick games that are so obscure that people will never get them. So it's like a line I got to walk. Like, I want to make sure somebody wins. Like, I don't want to just end up at the end and everybody's like, I never heard any of that crap. I mean, I could do that. I could make it so that nobody ever won. I want to make it, like, competitive, but make sure that somebody gets it. And
right, but there are very few games in the world that nobody would get. I could come up with a few that I played on the Apple IIe back in the 80s that probably no one else knows but me, but most stuff that was released commercially in the last 20 years, someone's going to know it.
Oh, there's like tons of games though, like little indie racing games. Like I could definitely make it so people didn't get it.
Yeah, but that's why I said risk commercial. If something was on a shelf in Walmart, someone's going to know what it was.
That's a good point, yeah. So anyway, I'm doing the best I can. I think it's still fun to play. At least I hope you guys are having fun playing it. I have fun doing it. And so we'll keep on keeping on with Name That Game Tune. And here's the good news. That ended so fast, we actually have some time to answer questions for the first time in, like, forever on GameFace. I don't think we've done Q&A in, like, 2 months, maybe. Maybe since we've come back from, like, the holidays. Seriously, I don't know if we've done one.
You've done a couple. It might have been January.
Yeah, it's been a while. So anyway, let's do some Q&A. Go at Sifted Games in chat so we can find your questions. Mellow Pintor, I've tried sending a DM to Sifted Games and gotten a response. Mellow Pintor, I have not had time this week to address that. I will send you your code in a couple hours when I get home from this. But I've been doing pre-production. I worked through the whole Easter weekend anyway, but I'll get your code ASAP. Rigor Mortis says, maybe pick games where people don't generally put hundreds of hours in. Okay. East Demon, what do you think of Dragon's Dogma 2 selling? Why do you keep asking this? Why does he keep asking about Dragons? Did we say it wasn't going to sell or something?
I wouldn't have.
I don't remember saying anything like that.
No.
Why do you keep bringing it up? I don't get it. Anyway. Sleeping Turtle 3, did you guys ever cover Alone in the Dark? No. And that is a missing game. Maybe next week we'll cover it.
Not it.
I'll play it. No, we have not covered it yet.
How much does it cost?
It's like full price.
Not it.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. I will jump on that grenade for y'all. We'll talk about it in next week's show. Commander Fett says, did you see any good April Fool stuff? We had a whole topic on it in today's show. You're going to have to watch the beginning of the show. We talk about all the fun April Fool stuff that we saw. Ashes in the Hourglass. With Nintendo having no game past June, what do you think the odds are that Metroid Prime 4 is coming out this year? Well, I drafted it on my fantasy team.
But I think that's 0.
And I think I'm going to get a 0 for that. I drafted it 10th.
That is a Switch 2 launch game if I have ever seen one.
Once we found out that it looks like the Switch 2 was delayed out of the year, we kind of just assumed that it's not coming out this year.
No.
And I'm really disappointed, obviously.
There's no possible way they don't launch that with a new system. I mean, I'm sure it'll also be on Switch, but there's no way that's...
They will wait to launch it with Switch 2, so 100%. Yeah, I do not think that's happening at all. Rock and Roll 458. What are your general feelings on gamers that claim the eras of the 80s and 90s are superior to now? I hear from many people online that gaming is worse, which I don't agree with. Rock and Roll, I don't know how old you are. I don't know if you're as old as Matt and I, and you lived through those eras, playing games like we did. I do not think those eras were better.
No. I enjoy them.
Yeah, I mean, they were great.
I've gone through great effort to still be able to play many of those games, but I have found, as someone who's been playing games for over 40 years, the best era of video games is right now.
Yeah, it is. They're better than ever.
No matter what right now is, that's it.
Yeah.
They always get better. There's always new stuff. It's a technologically driven and innovation driven and refinement driven industry and medium. The game, it's always going to be better going forward.
Yeah.
And if you don't agree with me, try to get a modern kid to play a game from the 80s.
They'll hate it. They'll last like 10 minutes, maybe.
They're like, why are you playing this? Well, got a high score. Like, that is an alien concept.
Yeah, they're like, hi, what?
That concept is as alien to them as, like, what you're killing.
Yeah.
Basically. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. There's way better now. I say all the time on this show, like, my 8-year-old me, his brain would leak out his ears if I could see the games now.
Oh, yeah. Even the bad ones.
Even the bad ones would blow my freaking little mind.
Like, I'll still go back. I mean, I got the Analog Pocket, and I went back and played a bunch of stuff like on that, and the Analog Genesis and the Turbo Duo. Like, that's all great. I love going back to those things. I played Streets of Rage 2 for the first time in forever, and that's great. Like, you know, I still enjoy it, but like, you can tell me that Streets of Rage 2 is better than like Dragon's Dogma 2? No.
Nope. Not happening.
No.
Yep, it's way better now. You guys are living in the golden age of video games. We're not getting as many. That is one thing I would like to see change, is maybe getting some more games.
Like,
but the games that we're playing now are just incredible.
Like, I know it's sacrilege, but it's like that Shredder's Revenge Ninja Turtles game. That's way better than the original Konami beat 'em up.
It is.
From like, come on.
It is. Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah, it is. People just don't remember what it was like. Yeah. All right, we're going to have to call it there. We've hit our time for GameFace episode 382. Thanks to everybody on chat for making the show better, fact-checking us, asking great questions, playing Name That Game, all that stuff, giving us Twitch Prime. In fact, if you're watching this show on YouTube right now, go down below into the description, learn how to help us with Twitch Prime. If you're an Amazon Prime member, you can give us a free $2.50 a month for free. For free. It costs you nothing. It makes a huge difference for us. Please do it if you can. We talk about it all the time. People do it live in our chat, and we always call people out, and we really appreciate it. If you do that, you end up running along the bottom of Pactor Factor in a ticker. If you do that, you also get Pactor Factor a week early without having to be a part of our Patreon. Please do it if you can. And if you can't, if you want to help us permanently, please go to patreon.com/sifted. That's where the bulk of our funding goes to keep this show and all our other shows going. You can pledge $1 there, $1 million a month, whatever you want, but you only have to pledge $4 a month to get all our content at least 3 days early. And if you can't afford to help us in any way, you don't have Twitch Prime, there's still stuff you can do. If you're listening to this show on a podcast service, review it right now. It makes a big, big difference. Reviews on podcast services are everything. Like I said last week, we got a bunch of reviews on Spotify, and our views on Spotify went up immediately. There is a 1-to-1 correlation between you guys reviewing the show on podcast services and the show doing more views. So please do that if you can. Again, that costs you nothing. Even if you just give us 5 stars, love the show. It takes you 10 seconds to do that. It can make a difference for us. We appreciate anything any of you guys do to help us. Obviously, thanks to all our sponsors. They're making a big difference. Thanks to Matt for opening up his home to do the show here. Thanks to you guys for showing up in the live chat and making it awesome every single week. So we'll be back here again next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/SiftedGames. Hope you guys can all join us then. We'll see you next Tuesday. GameFace is up and out.